Good afternoon, and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment hearings for Suburban Panel 2. We are a City of Ottawa quasi-judicial tribunal that holds public hearings to consider Planning Act applications, including minor variants to the zoning bylaw requirements and consents to sever land. Our hearings are now held in person at Ben Franklin Place, 101 Centerpoint Drive. We also enable remote participation by video conferencing for our registered speakers. We are live streaming on YouTube, and the video will be archived and available for future viewing by the public. My name is Fabien Poulin. I'll be chairing today's hearings, and you can address me by my name or as chair. And with me are my fellow panel members, Jay Baltz, George Barrett, Heather McLean, and Julianne Wright. The procedure for the hearings will be as follows. Listed on the agenda and appearing on the screen from time to time are the applications we'll hear today. For the sake of efficiency, I may deal with agenda items in a different order. Panel members have reviewed the planning reports and any written submissions in support or in opposition of each of the applications. Today, we'll hear any oral submissions relating to the applications. As part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant was required to post a sign on the property in question before the hearing. They also had to confirm in writing that they did so, or they'll need to swear or affirm an oath today that they fulfilled the sign posting requirements. Otherwise, we may have to adjourn or postpone the hearing. The panel may ask for a brief presentation of an application followed by questions for the applicant and city planning staff. We will then hear from members of the public who have registered to speak and may also have questions for them. Finally, the applicant, who has a burden of proof, will have the opportunity to make final comments and reply. Please address your comments to me as the chair, starting with your name and spelling it if necessary, and your municipal address for the record. All presentations will be limited to 5 minutes. Any exceptions will be at my discretion. At the end of the hearing, the panel may either make an oral decision or we may reserve our decision, which means it won't be delivered today. In either case, and within 10 days, the Committee of Adjustment will send the official written decisions and reasons for it to all parties, participants, and anyone else who has requested a copy. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure we'll be following today? There are no questions about our procedure. We have several applications to hear today, but we first need to deal with some preliminary procedural items. Are there any declarations of interest on this panel or any other panel? I have a declaration of interest, item number 7, having to do with
1319 Johnston.
Thank you, 1319 Johnston. So we have a few confirmation of minutes to confirm, and we have those minutes are of February 4th and February 18th. I'd like to ask the panel if they confirm the minutes of February 4th. All those in favor, please raise your hands. For February 18, all raise your hands in favor. Those 2 minutes are confirmed. Okay, so now we'll start with hearing the unopposed applications. Now, since there are 3 applications that are unopposed, and I have a conflict with one of them, so we're going to let Mr. Baltz will step in for me while I just remove myself from the panel, and we'll address that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is item 7, 1319 Johnston Road, which is unopposed. The planner is Elizabeth King, and let's see, where are we? Item 7. Tim Eisner is the agent for the applicant. Oh, there you are online.
Hi
do
there.
you have anything to say? We're going to
Yeah, I do have one request,
Yes.
and it was included with my project description. We submitted elevations with this application. They're the same elevations that were submitted with the site plan application. We would like to request that the approval is not tied to those elevations, but is instead tied to the site plan application. That's because in the delegated authority report for the site plan, we are permitted to modify the locations of doors, overhead loading bay doors and windows. So we'd just like to make that clarification, please.
Can I ask, planning to weigh in on this, please?
Yep, we have no concerns with that. It was discussed with the planner who reviewed at site plan control, so I have no concerns with them tying that way.
And is that how the, I don't have them in front of me, the conditions would allow that?
Yeah,
As
well,
well.
it's just a minor variance application, so there's no conditions
Yeah,
tied to
okay.
it.
All right, so it should be fine.
Thank you.
Are there any speakers or has anybody appeared who wishes to talk to this?
There are no speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so then we may consider this. So all in
Do
favor?
we have plans, site plan plans in front of us, or do we not? Sorry, do we have the plans that you're asking, the site plan control application plans in front of us? Do we have them on file or?
Well, I had provided an image of the site plan with the application, but I did not provide the delegated authority report.
No, that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
So it's there. Yes, yeah, planning has confirmed. So, okay. Anything else from the panel? All in favor of approval? Okay, item number 7 is approved and
Thank you.
I'll turn it back over to Mr. Polan, who is the actual chair.
Thank you, Mr. Baltz. And we have 2 other items that are on the unopposed list. And just for those people in the audience to be sure to you understand what the unopposed list means, you have to qualify for it. And you qualify for that quick decision by that there are no objections or concern from the parties, that's the applicant, city, or the public. No amendments are required, no registered speakers. The signposting for the declaration has been received. Applicant or agent has confirmed that they agree with all the requested conditions, and there are no questions for panelists. So that's how those unopposed agenda meet that criteria. They're able to go on this agenda. So the next item that is on the unopposed list is 74 Boyce. Mr. Ajalian or Ed Alahani, are you available, sir? Hi. Yep. You press the button so there you go. Do you have any comments to make about your application?
Oh, no. You have any?
No.
Okay. I'd like to ask the panel if they approve of this application, being unopposed. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Your application is approved, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item unopposed is 5395 Long Island. R and S Ermuth. Are you available? Are they online?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we'll bring them forward.
R and S Ermuth, are you available?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Sorry, I
Do you
don't
have
see my
any
video.
other, do you have any other comments to make? It's on the unopposed list. Just wondering if you needed to have to say anything more.
No, it's a minor variance and to appreciate the consideration. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I'd like to ask the panel if they approve of this application. All those in favor, please raise your hands. This application is approved. Thank you very much, Mr. Ermuth.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got a large contingent of the public here today, and they're speaking, I think, to item number 9. So we're going to put that at the very end of the agenda. So we'll follow all the way down until we get to number 9. We'll put that at the back end, and we'll hear number 10 before that. So now on to item number 1, having to do with 1301 Thames. Or Thames. Mr. Jalkotzi, are you available? There you are.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon. Would you like to make a brief presentation of what your application this afternoon?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a presentation. Next slide, please. This gives you a rough location of the subject site. It's close to the intersection of Carling and the Queensway, and is in an area that's designated of the highest level in terms of a 15-minute walking neighborhood. Next slide, please. This gives the context of the given site relative to the various zoning in the area. To the north of the property, you'll note that it's TM zoning in general, with heights all the way up to 60 meters in height. To the south of the property, it's an R4 zone with a height limits at 11 meters. And then to the west of the property, it's an R2 zone with a height limit of 8 meters. Next slide, please. This is the exception for the property to the north. As you'll note that there's a very slim area that is got a 0 height limit. The next height limit adjacent to the property at the rear is the has 11 meter height limit, and then it subsequently goes all the way up to 62 meters in height. Next slide, please. This gives you a view of the properties adjacent. So you'll see that there are 2 properties on the R4 zone across the street from this property, both being built to a higher elevation than 8 meters, 11 meters in the case of the building with the porches on it, the traditional older building, brick building, rental building to the southeast. And then the view that you see is the subject property is the small brick house, and the view of the mid and high rises to the rear of the property on the north side. Next slide, please. This gives you again that same context. This comes from the newly 3D mapping system that the City of Ottawa uses, and shows that building a 11-meter building at this location provides a very good transition between it and the subject property. It is kind of a unique property in the sense that this small part of R2 extends between the TM zone and the R4 zone as a small section on only one side of the street. Next slide, please. This is the proposed project. It's two long semis, each with 3 floors, 2 parking spaces to the rear, and entrances as shown. You'll note that there's a tree on the middle right corner front, which is to be retained. Next slide, please. This shows the actual parts for the severance. Part 1 and part 2 are one lot, and part 3 and part 4 are the second lot. Part 3 is an easement in favor of 1 and 2 for passage, and part 2 is in favor of parts 3 and 4 for passage. Next slide, please. This shows the tree in the subject tree in the tree report, which is to be retained and protected. Next slide, please. This is the elevations of the building showing the various clarifications that were made during the application with the planner regarding things like parapet height, as well as the height of the ceiling in the basement. Next slide, please. We believe that the application for consent to sever meets the tests of the provincial not requiring a subdivision as the existing services, existing infrastructure and no infrastructure is being developed as part of this development, no public infrastructure. And in terms of the 4 tests, it meets with the intent of the zoning bylaw. It meets with the official plan and the intent of the Planning Act. And now I've forgotten the last provincial aspect, but the 4th provincial aspect. Thank
1
you.
minute, sir.
Thank you. I'm finished.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to ask the panel if they have any questions for Mr. Jalkowski. Mr. Baltz, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think I know the answer to this. So your revised plan, I believe, shows the front yard setback at the closest point is now 5.38 meters. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the underlying zoning says 6 meters minimum, but this is subject to the urban overlay that allows it to be the average of the 2 adjacent. Is that how it's less than 6?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wright, do you have any questions? Mr. Barrett? Ms. McLean? Thank you very much. Now I'd like to ask Ms. Ankaran if you could make some comments with respect to this application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff have no concerns with the application and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Mr. Baltz, any questions for Ms. Ankaran?
No, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Wright?
I don't.
Mr. Barrett? Ms. McLean?
Just one question, Mr. Chair. I wondered about if we should add a condition about demolishing the existing dwelling and shed.
Ms. Ankaran?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just a second.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if it helps, we would agree to add that condition. That's usual.
I think it's fairly standard.
Yes. So you're happy with adding that condition, Mr. Jalkowski? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now that we're on the conditions, you agree with all the conditions, including that last one?
Yes, we did. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now, are there any persons from the public wanting to make a comment? I think we have Robert Brinker from the Carlington Community Association.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is,
Just a reminder, sir, you have 5 minutes.
yes, correct, as usual.
Thank you.
My name is Robert Brinker. I'm the Development Chair for the Carlington Community Association. I'm doing this job for, close to 10 years. And I have to disclose, I'm also a neighbor of the property in question here. So our comments are not against the development in general. We are focused on the process. We do not see this application as a minor zoning application at all because the height increased from 2 to 3 stories. Both sides of the property in question is R2, not just one side, as you mentioned before. And the whole street up to the end is R2, 2 stories right now. We are aware with the new comprehensive zoning bylaw coming in effect next year, there's a property that the whole street will be 3 stories zoned. But right now we are not talking about the new comprehensive zoning bylaw, we are talking about the existing one in effect. So 11 meters from 8 meters is for us not a minor variant at all anymore. So that would be for us should be referred to the city as a zoning amendment. That's our main point. The second point I made in the submission I sent to all of you is the front yard setback. I'm glad that I mentioned to the city that original plans violated this setbacks completely because it was 4.5 meters instead of the average zoning bylaw. Zoning from both adjacent property. So I'm glad that I see that being fixed in the new site plan. The last point I made also in my submission is the cedar tree on the front yard, which is omitted in the tree retention report. I don't know why. So, and also the applicant didn't mention it. So with the increased front yard setbacks now to, what did you say, 5.14 meters or something similar to that, and with the rerouting of the sidewalk or the walkway to the side of the building, this tree should have the opportunity to be retained. That are my comments. Thank you very much, Chair. and-
Before you go, I'd just like to ask the panel if they have any questions for you, sir. Mr. Baltz, do you have any questions for Mr. Brinker?
Yeah, so on the question of why this is not a minor variance, I'm curious why you think that. It stays within the same type of overall zone, R2.
The number itself stays in the R2. But 2 stories, 8 meters compared to 3 stories, 11 meters is for me more than just a minor. If we would talk about 1 meter, I wouldn't have a concern at all. That for me would be a minor variance.
So perhaps we'll bring that question back to staff, planning staff, when it's their turn.
Sure, well, we can ask them right now, so
Oh,
we're
okay.
still on the same page.
So what constitutes a minor versus non-minor variance in the city's view?
Thank you, Mr. Balls. The minor variance is not just numerical only, and the applicant can choose to apply a minor variance or a staff delegated zoning bylaw amendment. That's totally up to them. If they can justify that they can meet the 4 tests of the variance, they can apply for a variance. If they feel that they won't, then they can choose the minor zoning bylaw amendment that's delegated through staff.
Can you give an example of something that would not be minor on this site? If this indeed is minor?
Thank you, Mr. Balls. I believe if they would be adding 2 or 3 stories, then that would not be, I would say that would not fall under a minor variance or.
Because that's not allowed
And-
anywhere in an R2 zone. Is that the idea?
Again, it's based on the context and the surrounding surrounding neighborhood, and the other the other instance where this won't be a minor variance is if they are changing the land use. In this case, it's not. So
I see Planner O'Connell's hand is up, Mr. Chair.
Oh, Ms. O'Connell. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome, or good afternoon. I put up my hand prematurely. Ms. Einkaran answered what I was going to say. If the land use itself being proposed is not a permitted land use in that particular zone, then staff would have recommended a zoning bylaw amendment be the correct process. Essentially, whether a submitted minor variance is constituted as a minor variance is what is before the committee to determine as part of their review of the application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Wright, do you have any questions for the public?
No, I don't.
Ms. McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Brinker, any idea why this particular block is R2 and across the street's R4 and behind's TM?
That is before my time. That goes back to the city of Nepean a long time ago. I have no idea.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll ask. I just don't know. Is there any history to why this particular block on the north side is R2 and the south side's R4? Or?
thank you, Mr. McLean. I'm sorry, unfortunately, we don't know.
That's fine. No, that's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Barrett, any questions for Mr. Brinker?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, just regarding the cedar tree, is that something that you are asking to be retained?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so a question to staff, I guess, about, or
Do we have somebody from Forestry on the line there? Mr. Alvarez Markham, good morning, afternoon. Do you have an answer to that question, sir?
I do, yes. So the reason it wasn't captured in the TIR is because it isn't considered distinctive. It is a multi-stem tree and none of the stems are over 30 centimeters, so it doesn't qualify as a distinctive tree.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now I'd like to ask Mr. Delcozzi if he'd like to have the last word.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to reiterate what a minor variance is one that is determined to have minimal impact on the surrounding neighborhood in the context of its location. So something that would be deemed not minor would be something that has tremendous impact on the immediate neighborhood. Given that the location of this property is rather unique, as has been identified, and is surrounded both across the street and behind it by significantly taller or as tall buildings, we would submit that the variance requested, not from a numerical perspective, but based on an impact perspective, is minor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to ask the panel if they would like to reserve on this application. All those in favor to reserve, please raise your hands. This application will be reserved, sir, and you'll receive our written confirmation of our decision within 10 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and panel.
Now, the next application we'll hear today has to do with 613 Blanchard or Blanchard, and I'm looking for Jasmine Paolini. Good afternoon. Can you state your name and your address, please?
My name is Jasmine Paoloni, 2200 Thurston Drive. And with me, I have Yasmin Bahadori, same address.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Would you like to give us a brief description of your application today?
Yes, thank you. So today our application is for minor variances to approve an attached garage to an existing dwelling. I do have a presentation if the panel is interested.
Can we put the presentation up, please?
Thank you. Okay, so yes, as I said, this is an application for 613 Blanchard to request two variances related to an attached garage. If you can skip to slide 5, please. Okay, so the photo on the left is an aerial image showing the dwelling, the property outlined in yellow, and the location of the existing driveway shown in red. And as you'll see, the image on the right shows the location of the driveway, which is a reverse slope driveway going in the direction of the dwelling. Next slide, please. So these images are to demonstrate the effects of a reverse slope driveway during intense weather events. This was taken by the owner after heavy rain in August of 2023. There is one storm sewer just east of the existing driveway on the right side looking from the street. However, the sewer is regularly blocked and is not properly maintained. And so at this instance, it had failed to operate properly. And of course, as you can see, it leaves the water to pool, drain towards the dwelling and pool in the driveway. And of course, this causes severe damage to the home for the homeowner. Next slide, please. So these are photos from this year showing some of the effects of the consistent water pooling. So you'll see significant cracks in the foundation, sloped pavers and landscaping going towards the east side, which is the side that the water continuously pools down. So these elements are just some examples of things that will worsen throughout future freeze-thaw cycles if the issue is not corrected, and extreme weather events, which are only getting increasingly intense. And so through this application, we're looking to resolve these issues. Next slide, please. So this is the site plan of the property with Blanchard Avenue, with Blanchard Crescent on the right side and the existing dwelling in gray. So this application, we're proposing to eliminate the reverse slope driveway and replace it with an attached garage. And by doing this, we'll be maintaining the habitable space of the existing dwelling and addressing drainage issues on the property. Next slide, please. So the exact variances we're looking for are a reduced front yard setback of 1.4 meters and a garage projection of 8.29 meters in front of the principal entrance. And this is compared to the required front yard setback of 6 meters and the permitted projection for the garage of 0.6 meters. Next slide. Actually, we'll skip, in the interest of time, we'll skip to slide 16. Keep going on the presentation. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So this is an example of a property that did have a reverse sloped garage or reverse slope driveway, excuse me. But however, it was rectified by filling in the driveway and replacing it with an attached garage that is completely located in front of what was the existing dwelling. This is essentially what we're proposing. This form is what we're proposing here at 613 Blanchard. However, our proposed garage is a single wide as opposed to the double wide that you see here. Ours will be 3.76 meters wide. And go to the next slide, just our final slide. To address the 4 tests of a minor variance. We do believe the variances are minor as they're required to rectify a poorly designed, outdated driveway that the city would never approve of today. These variances are required to permit the regrading of the driveway and prevent any further damage from the home. These variances are desirable and appropriate for the use of the land and building. There is an example of a projecting garage just 6 doors down, as we saw. And 3 other neighbors have expressed interest in doing the same as this application proposes for the same reasons. Additionally, the private approach bylaw requires that all single residential driveways descend towards the roadway. And the zoning bylaw does require that we provide at least 1 parking space for this dwelling. And with limited space on either side of the dwelling and access to the rear yard, the front, in front of the dwelling is the only location where this can be proposed. The variances do maintain the intent of the official plan.
1 minute, please.
Thank you. With respect to policies 2.2.3, 2.2.4, and 4.6.5, which all speak to climate mitigation strategies, residential form and scale, and quality site design. And lastly, these variances maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw with respect to the single detached dwelling form remaining. The size of the garage is minimized as it's only 3.67 meters wide. And it will be using similar architectural language as the existing house as to not overpower the front facade. And lastly, the garage provides a location for that required parking space without sacrificing 2 floors of habitable space from the dwelling. And we're available for any questions.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to ask the panel if they have any questions for the agent. Mr. Baltz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 things. So one, I think you actually showed a picture of this, but there's not, in addition to the existing driveway that's there is a area that's filled with, I think, permeable pavers that's being used as a parking space right now. So one is that permitted? That's essentially a double wide driveway. And second, is that not in the city's right of way? And what's going to happen to that?
Yes, so as you said, it is in the presentation. There's a temporary parking measure in the front yard, which would be removed following the decision of this application. It was put in to alleviate the impacts of using the sloped driveway, but it does not conform to the zoning. No.
Okay, so it's being removed.
Yes.
Right. The second is, why is it possible to not have a front yard driveway by putting, a front yard garage, by putting the driveway going to the left of the house? I noticed that at the narrowest point, there's 1 point where it goes down to 2.68 meters, but that's pretty close to the 3 meters that would be required. So why not put it in the back and avoid this?
So if you could put up presentation slide 8, maybe just take a look at the site plan. Along the left side, it is angled, and so any driveway located anywhere on that frontage would be technically in front of the dwelling without leading to a garage. There's not enough space for the garage.
I know it wouldn't be as of right. There would be 2 variances required.
Yes.
That one and the narrow point to make it 2.68 instead of 3, but physically, is that not feasible? And then you don't have the arguments against this that planning is giving, that it's not conforming with the official plan and the zoning bylaws intent of not having front-facing garages like that.
Functionally, I don't believe a parking space or attached parking structure would fit on that side of the property. Given the setback, the existing setback to the property line.
Is it just the choke point that does it? Because there's a huge rear yard there. I can't imagine that you can't fit a garage somewhere there.
It is the fact that that point of the house is closest to the property line, just at that one point.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you just speak to the depth of the addition? Why it is the length it is?
So the 8.29 meters allows for the vehicle to be parked and one man door on the side. If you go to slide 12 of the presentation, I have an image showing one of the elevations.
Could you put up slide 12, please? Thanks.
So inside the garage, the vehicle would be parked closest to the garage door, and then there's access for the man door, which would lead to stairs to go down to the basement and access the basement, as shown here.
But we're talking, when I converted it, 27 feet depth of the garage, there's no, do you need 27 feet?
So the 27 feet would accommodate the length of the vehicle plus the access, and then the width of the stairs to go down and access the basement.
Ms. Wright, do you have any questions? Okay, perfect. Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions? Thank you. Okay, I'd like to move on to the city's planning staff and ask them if they've got any comments to make about this application. Mr. Tieft?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So apart from what I've submitted in the report, we don't have any additional comments at this time.
Okay. Mr. Balz, do you have any questions for Mr. Tieft?
Yeah, I guess I'll throw it to you. If this application were to place the driveway on the left and put the garage in the back, which would require some variances, would that be preferable to the current application?
Generally speaking, yes, we would prefer to see something that doesn't establish either front yard parking or a projecting garage.
And do you think 2.68 meters at that pinch point is adequate? If you had to?
I am not a transportation engineer,
So you
unfortunately,
couldn't-
but I can't speak to that.
Okay, so we won't know. All right, thank you.
Ms. McLean, any questions? Ms. Wright? No. Mr. Barrett? No. Okay. So I'd like to ask if there's any members of the public that would like to make some comments on this application. Please come to, please have a seat. Press the button to make the microphone live.
I guess I'm live.
Yep, you're live. Can you just state your name and your address, please?
My name is Roman Ksinkatkin. My property is 613 Blanchard Crescent, which is the one at stake here. And Mr. Chair, I would like you to understand that it's not the driveway is one thing, but the elevation of a slope. So basically the whole driveway has to be regraded prior to the actual building of the garage, which is in fact the intent of the proposal. And that will render a natural obstruction for the water to go, because the water that won't go up the hill, right? So that's one point. I also need the garage in winter, for the winter or for whatever. It's kind of normal thing. I can't get rid of a garage, and basically it will devalue the property. So if I don't have a garage, it will devalue it. I mean, another point here is second point, and I actually prepared the presentation. If I can, there's another submission of the presentation, because it does talk about how the water actually flows with the current location of the house being on the side.
I think Ms. Paolini's pictures did really good justice as to what happens when water comes in your place. So yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so because, all right, sounds good. If that's the case, then because the way the street is and the city didn't, well, we don't have much of the drain or anything. And then once the severe rainfall hits, the water floats this way and basically congregates at that drain hole. Now, and very interesting point happens. Instead of going into the drain with all the debris, the water gets obstructed. So me and the previously mentioned neighbors are standing there at the time of rainfall with whatever they have at hand to clear that particular area so the water gets drained. But even then, in the event of 2023, because basically we were trying to clear it, but the collector got overflown. And because it's from what I understand, it's a dual drain sewage system. So so that somehow got overflown, and then the collector itself got overflown. So the water started pushing back. I got the water like this. Direction of the water was actually like this. My neighbors got the flooding like this from the washrooms. So there is an inherent problem there. And at least my solution will remediate the first problem. And the fact that there is another garage in there built like that, because I spoke to the neighbors before they moved to a retirement home, they're older folks, but they said this is the only solution which we were trying, which we could, because we tried, the obstructions, we tried this, and that garage was built in 1989. So bylaw was placed in 2008. After the fact, that garage was built. And they said this solution works, basically that period, plain and simple. Now, another point that I want to make, we all saw the floodings of last year in Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa the year before when I got flooded. So basically every panel, every city representative said in Toronto that infrastructure of the city itself is not capable for those floods, is not underlain. I don't know how it is with City of Ottawa, but I would assume it's requiring a lot of updates, right? So, and one of my last points is I have funding 200,000 already allocated for that project. Like I'm basically waiting for this approval and then I'm good to go to build. So I have a company picked. I'm waiting for this decision. That's it, that's all. Thank you very much for your.
Thank you. I'll ask the panel if they have any questions for, I don't want to mess up your name.
That's fine, everyone does.
Okay. Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions?
Yes, after the flooding in your home, through you, Mr. Chair, did you contact the city stormwater management group, and what did they give you any indication of what their plans are for that street? Because it sounds like it's just not your house, but other homes along the street.
Exactly. I contacted them twice, in fact. Second time, they never even bothered getting back to me. But the first time, they tried to remediate the issue with kind of depressing the drain hole a bit so it has a better flow. But it doesn't work because if the rain is severe enough, the same issue keeps happening. And that's, I actually made a video of that particular moment, how the water gets in, gets accumulated, then goes in the driveway. I actually went into and made a video. So I did contact them twice. My tickets are there, maybe, perhaps. So I tried my due diligence on this side. City of Ottawa tried theirs by depressing the actual drain hole. But no remediation streetwise was done so far, period. So no additional drains were placed to mitigate the debris that keeps flowing from up the street. Nothing, none of that. So
One further question, do you have a sump pump or do you have more than one sump pump operating in your home?
not currently, but I did plan, like I have to allocate the budgets, right? My own budgets. So if this doesn't fly, like I'll have to install few sump pumps, and irrespectively of if it does or not, I'm still installing a sump pump no matter what, because I can't afford, to waste 20,000 in repairs every year, because it just doesn't cut it.
Thank you.
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Wright, any questions? No, I don't. Ms. McLean, Mr. Baltz?
So I think I can speak for the committee that we accept that the current driveway can't stay because of the flooding. So the evidence is very clear there. The city's proposal, if I understand it, is not to have an enclosed garage, but simply to raise the level of the driveway so that it slopes outward, and then just use that for parking. I think you said somewhere in there that the value of the house would fall if it didn't have enclosed parking. So that would be the issue, the reason why you don't wish to do that, right? You must have heard, looked at the other side of the house. There's a 2.68 meter clearance at the closest point between the house and the lot line. Did you consider putting a driveway in there to a rear garage to avoid all of this problem?
Well, I mean, if it's physically possible, then yes, but how would you get to that garage?
A new driveway running along the lot line and then into the back, past the house.
So there's a neighbor, right? On the side, so I don't know how that's gonna.
There's the clearance is almost 3 meters, which is, if you haven't considered it, then we won't.
No, I
We won't
won't.
discuss it here. I just wanted to know if anybody had looked at that.
No, I never did. It's just, I never came to my head that way, because the neighbor probably would be opposing that right there. He wouldn't want me to drive like this, and maybe what if the accident happened? What if I don't make through the turn? Because it's a pretty narrow slope there. There's also my gas meter there.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't want to take that.
That's all right. We don't, it's a hypothetical, so I just
Okay.
wanted to know if this for some reason were not to, if not to pass, that might be
Ms.
Yeah.
Paolini, I think you've got the opportunity for the last word. I know you had your owner speak, but you've got the opportunity to address those things that you need to address for the benefit of this application.
All right, thank you. If you wanted to put up slide 4, just to kind of speak to Mr. Balt's point, that property line is shared with a neighbor that has a driveway abutting it as well. And so essentially we'd be creating a pretty wide section of asphalt there, but the existing dwelling doesn't encroach onto our property, but their existing paving and soft landscaping and trees and shrubs and such do. And so I don't believe we would be able to propose a driveway up that side of the property. There's also, planter and soft landscaping in the client's front yard. I don't believe that'd be possible. But just to speak to the comments made by the previous planner on the previous pre-consult, suggesting front yard parking, the slope of the driveway is less than 8% towards the house. And so we would not qualify for the permitted non-conforming front yard parking policy that she had recommended. So if we were to level the driveway without a garage and just have parking in front, we would be again coming back for a minor variance for front yard parking, which I know is not the city's policy or the panel's policy to permit. So and so the proposal that we have in front of you is kind of, the best of these. That's our application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to ask the panel if they'd like to reserve on this application. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Your application will be on reserve, and we'll have the application's decision in 10 days. You'll receive it in 10 days.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our list is item number 4, having to do with 101 Kanata. And I'm looking for R. Shamil. Are they joining remotely? Mr. Shamil, are you available?
Mr. Chair, committee staff were advised that the applicant was having some trouble connecting. We've resent the link.
Okay.
They may be connecting now. Yes, the applicant's online.
Thank you. Mr.
Yes,
Shamil.
hello. Yes, hi there. Sorry, I just joined. I had a hard time getting online, so I just got on now.
Not a worry. So we did not receive the sign posting declaration. Are you prepared to take the oath?
Yes, I drove by on the way to the office at lunchtime, and I went by to look, and the sign is posted.
Okay, so,
And I did take pictures.
okay, now is it up for the prescribed number of days?
Yes, they put it up on the day that they picked it up.
What day was that?
The 18th. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is James. I'm a general manager, so I did sign the declaration and it was sent in today. But I picked it up on the person I called in the reports.
Maybe an easier question would be, has it been up for 14 days?
Yes, it has.
Okay, so I'm now going to read an oath and I'd like you to respond. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time? Do you swear?
I do. I do.
I can't hear you, sir. Did you say you agree?
I do.
We're not hearing anything from you, sir. Are you muted? Mr. Shamil, are you available? Are you there?
I'm here, yes.
So I asked you, I asked you to swear to the oath that I just read. Do you swear?
Well, I don't know who is online with me, James, I think, or.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry, I heard the declaration, so I do swear that it's been posted for more than 15 days.
Okay, and what's your name?
My name is James Dennis. I'm the general manager for the restaurant group that's proposing to remove or to move 2 parking spots.
Okay, do we have enough, Mr. Deputy Secretary?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. And if the applicant could submit those photos, that may be helpful as well.
Okay.
Yes, I'll do that. And I'll have the form filled out and sent in.
Okay.
Form was sent today. The form was sent today.
Okay. Did it go to me, James?
I went to Garrett and to Kofa at Ottawa. That's so I'm just looking for the Kofa at Ottawa.ca.
Okay.
Okay, I think we understand the application, Mr. Shamil. Would you like to make a presentation?
Sure. Can I share my screen? Or do I need to? Can I just speak about it?
Did you send it in for us to?
No, I did not send it in. No.
Can you share his screen?
Sure.
No, Mr. Chair, unfortunately, we can't allow.
No, we can't allow you to share the screen, but if you want to go ahead and make your presentation, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Well, I will speak to the 4 tests of what a variance would be. I do believe the variance is minor. The owner of the restaurant would like to not remove 2 parking spaces and not to relocate 2 parking spaces on the site to accommodate an outdoor terrace. It's on the side of the building facing Kanata Avenue. We are not deleting parking spaces because the hotel use did not want any deleted. The intent is just to relocate. So in that sense, I think the variance is minor. Is the variance desirable or appropriate for the development? If you were ever to drive by the property, the location of the deletion of the parking spaces on the side elevation where the exit is, they would like to convert these 2 parking spaces to an outdoor patio. So I think the intended use, instead of a cold parking lot to patio use for summer for the restaurant is a desirable use and a better frontage to the street. The intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained because we're not deleting any parking spaces. We are reducing the setback on a side yard, and the setback was at 10 meters initially. And then speaking to the planner, she did say that this was set up when the development was created many years ago, and it's not really applicable to the site. And in terms of the official plan, we were maintaining the intent of the official plan as well. So I do believe it's a minor scope of work, and it's improving the property.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, Mr. Barrett? Ms. Wright, any questions?
No, I don't.
Ms. McLean, Mr. Baltz? Okay, I'd like to ask Planning Services, Ms. Einkenrand, do you have any comments or questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff have no concerns, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barrett, any questions for Planning Services? Ms. Wright, any questions? Ms. McLean? And Mr. Baltz?
Just quickly, so this will be tied to plan, so although there is a reduction in the setback and the buffer, generally, it would only apply ever to these two spaces, right?
Agreed, yes, yes.
Yes,
Sure.
Mr. Baltz.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to ask if there's anyone from the public that'd like to make some comments with respect to this application. Anyone in-house? Anyone online? No one online. So I would like now to ask her, Mr. Shamil, if you'd like to have the last word, sir.
Sure. Just as a comment, when the development was created, I don't know what year it was done, it was probably in the early 2000s. There was an extensive landscaping component. There are a lot of trees on the property. There's actually room on the property where we could have located these parking spaces on site, but it would have meant removing 4 or 5 large coniferous trees. So we think this is a better solution to locate it at the perimeter of the property, and it maintains the intent of the landscaping generally throughout the site.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to ask the panel if they would like to reserve on this application. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Your application will be reserved, sir, and we'll have our answer within 10 days. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Our next application is application number 5, having to do with 1460 Baseline Road. I'm looking for Mr. Lee.
Good afternoon, committee. So today I'm gonna have my project architect, Mr. Chang, to do presentation for this case. Thank you much.
Could you please state your name and your address, and a reminder that you have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon, committee member. My name is Chang. This is the architect. I'm living in Kanata 33 Willow Glen Drive. This proposal is located at the 1460 as the baseline. It's close to the Maryville intersection with the baseline. It's zoned as the R4, R2F. And currently it's the single house, and owner plan to demolish the single house and build 2 buildings for the semi-detached. And we apply for the minor variance, the minimum, the site width, minimum the site area, and rear yards area, and rear yard setback. This lot is originally under the plan of subdivision. It's already 4 lots. So because the BLT widening, so the house had to be pushed back. That's why the 2 minor variants for the rear yard setback and rear yard area is the minimum requirement. And we propose multiple dwelling unit and provide additional house for this neighborhood. Even with the minor variants, we still meet landscape area minimum. We more than the minimum requirement, more than double. And also we provide reasonable floor plan. Each unit will be around 1,000 square foot for the tenant. And the site is close to the city middle road. So we can use the existing structure and also building height with under the 8 meter minimum required by the zoning bylaw. So in the past, we see the baseline and the similar development has been built semi-detached. And even last year, the identical site plan and the floor plan have been approved by this committee and approved by the OLT. So we think this is a good opportunity for this neighborhood and for the owner to develop the infill urban area and provide multiple unit for this neighborhood. That's my brief presentation.
Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to ask Ms. Wright if any questions for the applicant.
I do. So I noticed on the plans, and while I don't think it's required, I'm questioning why all of your units, which are at the rear, will have to travel over what I think is soft landscaping, so grass, to get to the units. Am I correct? You're not proposing any pathways to get to those rear units?
The site plan show the 2 entrances. So the front entrance, that front stair is shared by the 3 units. So the main entrance at the front, so all of the tenant will go to the front. The second entrance just for the required by building code. So resident will be mainly use the front yard entrance.
Okay, so there's 3, 6, 9, 12, all 12 units will access through.
It's the shared stairwell.
Okay, so then the rear doors are simply for exiting or accessing your amenity space.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ms. McLean, do you have any questions for the applicant? No. Mr. Baltz?
Yeah, just a quick one. Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Earlier on, there was planning and development and building services had expressed concern about the possibility of front yard parking occurring. So there's a revised site plan that you submitted that has curbs, correct?
Correct.
Can you just briefly describe what's going to be there to prevent front yard parking from people from just driving up over the?
Sure. We received comment from the city's concern about the front yard parking. So what I did, we put the curb like a landscape stone or the 6x6 timber curb to prevent the car drive over to the grassland.
And you planning to plant trees or bushes or something to make it less? I mean, we've all seen, I live in a neighborhood where, you put up curbs, but people just drive over the sidewalk and park.
We can accommodate some feature on our site plan when we submit the building permit, like maybe the bicycle racks, something can stop even further to stop car park at the front yard.
So any measures to prevent front yard parking in the remaining area and keeping it green or useful would be?
Yeah, we will do.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Barrett, did I get you? No, thanks. Okay. Okay, now so we need to go on to our planning department, the city's planning services. Mr. Teef, do you have any comments to make or questions?
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have no comments at this time, but happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, Ms. Wright, do you have any questions for Mr. Teef?
No, I don't.
Ms. McLean, do you have any questions? Mr. Baltz?
I'll just ask the same thing. Are you now satisfied with the provisions to prevent front yard parking there?
Yes.
And in site plan, this will be followed up to make sure that, okay, great, thank you.
Correct.
Mr. Barrett, any questions? Okay, now I'd like to ask the members of the public. We have Ms. Nancy Wilson from City View Ryan Farm Community Association. Are you available? Okay. Hello, Ms. Wilson.
Hello. I'm here today and Jill Pro's supposed to be here. She had to take her mother to the hospital, so I'm just wondering if I can add her part at the end or if I have to squish it all into the 5 minutes.
You gotta squish it all into the 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll try. Okay. Good afternoon, committee chair and committee members. The committee is authorized to grant a minor variance if all 4 of the tests are met. This proposal fails all 4 tests. Although our community association agrees that Baseline Road is appropriate for heavier infill, we oppose any application that does not meet the requirements of the existing bylaw. The property at 1460 Baseline Road does not meet these requirements and is a risky location for this type of development. I'm just wondering if you could put up Exhibit 1 for us. Actually, sorry, Exhibit 2. Exhibit 2. No, we consider the 4 variances of each of the 4 semis not minor. The requested variance is to facilitate the development of these new semis. Detached dwellings on undersized lots does not meet the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, nor is the application appropriate development for the use of the property. The front yard setbacks are listed as 7.35 and 8.65. Under the existing bylaw, 6 meter frontage setbacks are required. Yet much of this yard is designated for expropriation for the future baseline rapid transit. So you can see on this exhibit here, there's a red line and it shows how it comes right back to the front door. So you're 1.57 meters away from the road on the widest part. And when you get to the northeast corner, it's even less than that. Also, the future BRT is included in the Ottawa's 2022 official plan, and by ignoring that plan construction, the general intent and purpose of the official plan is not being maintained. The lot area and width is 270 meters squared and 9 meters across the front. We just wanted to ask planning if at the end they could tell us what the MS2, which is what it's going to convert to in the new zoning bylaw, what that is equal to, because we can't find that anywhere. The applicant claims that the footprint of these proposed semi-detached dwellings are able to comply with set yard setbacks and area requirements of the zoning bylaw if road widening due to the BRT is not considered. If you could put up Exhibit 1 for me, please. So that red line shows how it's going to come back. We maintain that this unique property will be affected by the BRT and is extremely close to the corner of Baseline and Clyde. You can see this on this diagram here. The property is right there beside the oil change place, and it's right in the intersection. It's very close to the Baseline and Clyde, and it's one of the busiest, most dangerous intersections in the city. Also, unlike other lots along Baseline Road, this lot is not regular as the northeast corner has already been expropriated for the right turn lane. Parking, 4 spots is simply not enough for this development of multi-units with many residents. This occurs along Baseline Road, and it's obvious that there is not sufficient parking. You can see that at other developments that this developer has, and there's front yard parking all along. We understand that such conversions of front yard for additional parking is illegal. The city should be disallowing it, not discouraging it, as they say in their comments. In any case, most of this soft landscaping will be removed with the BRT, and we suspect that the reduced frontage will not support any trees and would further hinder the sight lines when you're coming out of the parking spots. Road cuts, there'll be road cuts here. There's supposed to be a bikeway, a crosstown bikeway that runs as per the transportation master plan. The installation of this bikeway and the site's frontage will create minor or major safety issues, cutting out into the traffic. The existing bungalow with a single road cut will be replaced by 3 to 4 road cuts. This would mean more cars backing through pedestrian sidewalks and across cycle paths. Also, Baseline Clyde intersection is stated to become even busier. If you can put up Exhibit on here. Exhibit 4 for us, please. You'll see how busy that this intersection is going to be with all of the new development. The design of this proposed project is not appropriate development. This project should be designed to have a common driveway to accommodate residents from both buildings. The infrastructure, CityView maintains that the infrastructure in CityView still does not support this level of intensification. When infill occurs, lot coverage increases and the green space and trees that absorb water, stormwater is removed and our community's drainage is affected. CityView has no storm sewers and serious drainage problems.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Okay. The level of intensification also affects other infrastructure, including water and sewers. The proposal will replace a property with one house and ample parking with one approach, probably with 3 bedrooms and not more than 2 bathrooms, with 2 proposed semis, each with 3 units, with a possible total of 36 bedrooms and 24 bathrooms, and 4 parking spaces for all of these, at least probably 24 people. This is definitely overdevelopment. Although the official plan is mandating this type of densification, it can only be done when the services can support it. The infrastructure in this area is aged and requires upgrading. Also, the official plan recognizes that when areas are intensified, other infrastructure such as parkland, sidewalks, schools, traffic, cycling, walkability require updating and improvements. Our community is still waiting for this. Okay, and we're just waiting for our baseline secondary plan, which hasn't been started yet, which would help when these kinds of problems come along. And the trees, to say the trees are Baseline Road is currently a heat island, and the city proposes the tree-lined corridors to provide cooling for uses of active transport. Baseline Road needs to retain all the trees surrounding it as a major traffic route and needs trees to shade and absorb the carbon monoxide. Thank you very much. Sorry for the big rush, and I'm hoping that planners can tell me what the M3-2 requirements are. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I'd like to ask the panel if they have any questions. Ms. Wright? And Ms. McLean. Mr. Baltz?
As always, thank you, Mr. Chair. The red line you showed for the bus rapid transit, is that where the pavement comes up to, or is that just the expropriation line?
Just like to show the boundary of the road widening there. Yeah, my understanding we are not allowed any permanent structure in the line.
Right.
So
But
that would
probably
be-
I should direct this more to staff, because if you know, when they take that for the bus rapid transit, are they intending to pave to within 1.7 meters of the, so what would be there in that front yard area?
So that space is for sidewalks, cycle tracks, that sort of thing. It's not the actual roadway going up to.
But
the
would
edge
there
of the
be
property.
green space there, or are you taking all the green space?
I can't comment on the actual design, but there may be green space, there may not.
Because City View, Ms. Wilson does have a point that providing this front yard setback and trees and whatever is not going to do much if in the future it's going to be paved over by the city. So, okay.
Can I just add that that line, I think if you look at the baseline rapid transit plans, there's a sidewalk, a bike path, 2 lanes of traffic, the buses in the center and the same on the other side. So I think that red line is going to be where the sidewalk is, and then the bike path. So it's going to be paved over all the way across. There's going to be nowhere to plant trees.
Okay. The other quick question is, does anyone know, is it the City View in general doesn't have sewers, but baseline is this property would be served by a storm sewer?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Ms.
Mr.
Wright, do you
Chair.
have any questions?
No, I don't.
Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering, a question to staff, and was the applicant aware of the baseline work plan for future?
We can ask the applicant. Are you aware of the future work plan, the baseline rapid transit? And the work that has been described here by both planning and the public?
So by the time that we consult with city planner and they redirect us to the city Ottawa surveyor, so they point out this right line is a boundary for all construction and future use of the road widening. So any permanent structure out of this line will be allowed. So that's the base that we developed this proposal based on the city Ottawa surveyor recommendations.
Okay, so Mr. Barrett's question was, are you aware? And I think
Yes.
you're just saying that
Yes.
you were aware of this.
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
Okay. Now I thank you very much, Ms. Wilson. We'll now move on to Mr. Lee. You have the opportunity for some final comments.
Thank you for the comment from the association and thank you for the committee. We do really appreciate this opportunity to apply our minor variance. And we see the development baseline in the past and currently now, the similar building have been built. So our building will be fit in this neighborhood. I just want to emphasize the 4 minors is have a reason. Because the plan of subdivision make the site width less than the 9 meter because of the history. And also because the BRT location make our building happy setback to the rear yard. That's why our rear yard is less than the requirement. So 4 minor variance has the history. So we did our best to meet all the conditions and provide minimum parking and reasonable footprint for each unit. And in terms of grading and drainage, I think our condition, if we approve, we have condition on the grading by the civil engineer. And we'll make sure our building permit application meet all of the requirements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask the panel if they would like to reserve on this application. All those in favor to reserve, please raise your hands. We'll be reserving our decision on this application and you'll receive our response in 10 days. Thank you. Okay, now we're moving on to item number 6. This has to do with 1332 Thames or Thames. And I'd like to, if Mr. Tyler Yakachuk is available. Hello. So you need to press the button so you can get yourself live.
Is that good for you, Chair?
There you go. Can you please state your name and your address, please?
Tyler Yakachuk. I'm here representing the client from Photon Planning and Design. Our address is 420 O'Connor.
Thank you very much. Would you like to make a brief presentation for your application?
Sure. Thank you. Good afternoon. As I mentioned, my name is Tyler Yakachuk with Photon Planning and Design, here to speak to a consent application for 1332 Thames Street. Next slide, please. So the proposed development is for 2 long semi-detached dwellings per lot with associated secondary dwelling units. I should note that should say 6 total per dwelling per lot, not 4, my mistake, with 3 spaces per lot and a shared laneway accessing parking. And I should note that this is fully compliant with the R2G long semi zoning. Next slide, please. All right. So as a former applicant already mentioned the context of the area, I won't give you too much other than to note that the subject property is within approximately 400 meters of a future LRT station, and Maryvale Road is designated as a transit priority corridor. So, and as per the official plan, creating greater density within these sorts of areas is ideal. Next slide, please. So looking at the consent application and the survey, you can see here that on the art plan, parts 1 and 2 are to be retained, parts 3 and 4 are to be severed, and a shared easement is to be over parts 2 and 3 identified with the red line. Next slide, please. So getting into the Planning Act and the appropriateness of the proposed consent, these are items that we'll be looking at. So next slide, please. So with regard to the provincial interest and public interest, the proposed development is within a settlement area that efficiently uses an existing lot to provide 12 units where 1 presently exists. It helps provide for a range of housing mixes in an area that is already characterized by these types of dwellings. And with regards to infrastructure, both properties can be adequately serviced. Next slide, please. Turning to the official plan, the area is designated as a neighborhood, which primarily looks to provide low-rise development up to 4 stories. We're looking to provide low-rise development up to 2 stories. And also noted this is in the evolving neighborhood overlay, which looks to gradually change the character of the area based on proximity to hubs and corridors. And a hub is located less than 50 meters away. And there's also a corridor, Main Street corridor, which is Carling Avenue. So, next slide, please. Looking at suitability, you can see that the lands are within the urban area. The dimension remains rectilinear and the adequacy of utilities has already been noted. Looking at the zoning tables below, you can see that the proposed development, both lots, will meet the lot area and lot width for the consent application. Next slide. So in conclusion, the proposal meets the intent of the PPS for intensification within a settlement area and to create lots on full municipally serviced areas. The proposal meets the intent of the official plan by intensifying within the urban area with the new lots on fully municipal services. The proposal looks to create lots that are regular in shape, have frontage on a municipal road, and with the capacity to connect to municipal services. The proposal is fully compliant with the existing R2G zoning. And the proposal is in the public interest and represents good plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, are you familiar with the conditions that have been requested on this application?
Yes, we've let staff know that we are comfortable with the conditions.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to ask the panel if they have any questions for the applicant, Mr. Barrett. Okay, Ms. Wright, Ms. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wondered about adding a condition for the demolition of the existing dwelling in the shed. I think fairly standard.
That would be fine.
condition. Thank you.
So you're good with that condition being added?
Yeah.
Perfect. Mr. Baltz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just the rear yard green space. I think you provided a number of 61 meters squared in aggregate for each set of units. Is that so? 122 in total green back there. There's a lot of that runs along the, it's the landscape border that's required.
The landscape buffer, yes.
The actual rectangular piece that people might use, how big is that?
I have an exact number. I don't have an exact number, sorry, Chair, but if I were to estimate based on the total area back there, I would say approximately 100 square meters per collectively between the two properties.
Okay. Yeah, that one. But it's aggregated. Yeah, so that's fine. So that's usable as a backyard and is intended for amenity space, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, now I'd like to move on to planning services and ask them for their comments. Mr. Teeth, do you have any comments to make?
Thank you, Chair. No comments. I was going to bring up the condition that we missed, but other than that, no comments. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions for Mr. Teeth? Thank you. Ms. Wright? Ms. McLean? Mr. Barrett? Mr. Ball, sorry.
Neither.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Okay, so I'd like to ask if there's anyone from the public that has any comments to make. Anyone here present? Come on down. You need to make yourself live by pressing the button, appropriate button. There you go.
Hi.
Hi, can you state your name, sir?
My name is Ken Tierney,
And your address?
where I live,
Yes,
65 Van Stone Drive, Kanata, Ontario.
great. So now we need to just let you know that you have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Well, it's just gonna be off.
That's
the-
okay.
Off the cuff thing.
That's okay.
Yeah, well, I own the property next door, 1340 Thames. And I just have some concerns. Did I meet with you before at the?
I don't believe
I
so.
met the owner at the back parking lot with an engineer, I think.
He mentioned that to me, but no, I wasn't present.
Okay. Anyway, I have a storm drain pipe underground, maybe about a foot. It runs along the property line from Thames to the back of my garage and in the back of my garage. Because there's a big 10-unit building behind, there's a lot of water runoff. I bought 1340 Thames in 1973. And I had to do that to mitigate water running off. And so anyway, it runs along the side of my property, and it looks like maybe the back parking lot of this new development will maybe dig some of the piping up at the back. And I'm just wondering, would you be willing to move the pipe closer to my garage? Because I had to bring it out around the side of the garage onto your property. And John, the former owner, said it's okay to do it because there was tree stumps and what have you. So I just brought it around and then back into the property line. And so it looks like maybe when you do the parking lot at the back, you could be digging up the pipe. So could you guys move it back towards?
I'll
garage?
interject for just a second. I think it's important that you guys talk after this, but it's not
Oh,
relevant
okay.
to this application that you're making today. And I'm sure a good meeting of minds can have happen.
Oh, okay. Well,
If I were to just add to that point, one of the conditions is to provide a grading and drainage plan prepared by a qualified civil engineer, specifically to avoid any draining onto your site. But
okay,
with
yeah,
regards to
the
pipe-
engineer did mention that there's going to be a basin or something at the back, so that would be good. And I was just wondering too about the height of the parking blacktop. Is it going to be higher than mine, which might make water drain onto mine, or?
But as Mr. Yakachuk said, there are several conditions on this property that require the applicant to do certain things, one of which is a grading and drainage plan.
Mhm.
So they will make sure that nothing is coming onto your property.
Oh,
on
great,
that plan.
okay. And one other little concern I might have is the buildings are built on Leda clay in that area, and I'm just wondering about the weight of the structure. Would it depress the clay and maybe cause my footings to move and maybe crack my?
I don't have that kind of knowledge, and I think that Mr. Yakachuk and his different consultants he's going to hire to build the building or to design the building will have more input on that. And so, yeah, I think you mentioned it here now. Mr. Yakachuk will probably take it back to those consultants and.
Yes, because I have heard that introducing a heavy building on Leda clay will deform it, and I mean, I'm not far from that property line, so.
Right, there's a lot of stuff going on in behind on the north side too of that property, so they've had to deal with a lot of that as well. But I think his consultants will be able to put all that stuff together.
Sure.
Yeah, we can connect afterwards.
Okay, great. Well, other than that,
Okay.
oh, and the other fact is that this drainage pipe goes through and it connects up with another pipe that the city of Ottawa put in to the storm drain. And it's not on the drawing, so it would be nice to have that on the drawing. It runs underneath my driveway and it's a big white pipe.
So the city of Ottawa put that in?
Yes, Thames was reconstructed, I'm not sure, maybe 2020. I wonder if the staff person might know when that was reconstructed.
I'm not sure you'll know those specific questions, but they will have plans on file that they worked on and they'll have to consider, or Mr. Yakachuk's team will have to consider at the time that they're going to be doing any kind of.
Right, well, it's just that that pipe is not on the drawing and it would be nice to have it on showing that where it goes, you know, because it's part of the city that put it in at the time of the constructing of the new road.
I'm pretty sure that it would be somewhere if the city put it in. That's
Yeah.
just the way they do things.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, other than that, I
Okay.
guess that's about it.
Just before you go, Mr. Tierney, I'll just ask the panel if they have any questions for you.
Oh,
Mr.
sure.
Garrett? Ms. White? No, I don't. Ms. McLean? Mr. Ballas, no other questions. Thank you very much for your time and your input.
Okay, thank you very much.
We can connect.
Okay, Mr. Yakuchuk, you'll have the opportunity to give us your last word on this application.
I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to ask the panel if they would like to reserve on this application. All those in favor, please raise your hands. This application will be reserved and you'll get our answer, our decision within 10 days. Thank you very much. We are moving on to item number 10. This has to do with 1618 Botsford. And I'm looking for Mr. Sewer.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please state your name and your address.
So my name is Arjun Soor, and my address is 240 Michael Copeland Drive, Suite 200.
Would you like to give us a brief description of your application?
I would.
Reminder, sir, it's still only 5 minutes.
I'll do my best, but before we start the presentation, we did want to flag that we wanted to change the notice. This was something that we brought to committee staff's attention. But variance I on the notice identified a reduced interior side yard setback from the southerly interior lot line of 0.4 meters. But it should actually be 0.39 meters. So that's about a 1 centimeter difference versus what was on the notice. And if the committee is prepared to proceed with our presentation and hearing the application with that revision to the notice, we think that would be appreciated, as it's small, only 1 centimeter, and we don't think it's just a rounding error that we made a mistake on. And it doesn't necessarily have too much of a bearing on the variance itself.
I appreciate that. There have been several people from the public that have expressed opposition to the application. And as you know, when you make when there is a change, like this may be considered material change to one of the requested variances, it requires recirculation. And I know you're only talking about, well, a couple of centimeters, but there is the public that is concerned or have concerns for.
So that's understood and appreciated. Again, obviously it's the decision of the committee, but we would like to proceed if we can with the notice being changed to reflect that 1 centimeter, which again, we don't believe materially changes the application. Really, the difference between 0.4 and 0.39 is literally a centimeter. And I would note as well that, not only are we ready to proceed, but there may be neighbors who made themselves available today to speak to this application. And in fairness to them, they may want to see this proceed as well.
Okay, well, just under that proviso that there may be a need to recirculate because of some concerns of neighbors. We'll hear your application and we'll proceed that way. If you'd like to make your presentation, please go ahead.
Yep. If we could just pull up our slideshow. So good afternoon, and Chair and members of the committee. As I said, my name is Arjun Soor. With me joining virtually is my colleague Murray Chown and Mr. J.F. Lalonde beside me today. Next slide, please. So this just shows the existing house on the property. Next slide. So this shows the accessory structures on the property. There's a total of 5 accessory structures on the property with 3 wooden sheds, a hot tub, and a play structure. The originally submitted application identified 2 additional sheds, but following consultation with staff, it was determined that 2 of the sheds are part of the building as they're attached to the detached dwelling. And so on this plan, they're identified as storage closets. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the site plan, including the proposed relocation of Wooden Shed 1 and the storage closets in the interior side yard. Wooden Shed 1 and the small storage closet are proposed to be relocated in order to remove their encroachment onto the neighboring lots. Next slide, please. Wooden Shed 1, as you see, is on the northern interior side yard of the existing carport, encroaches 0.25 meters to the neighboring property. The owner will relocate that shed to be entirely on his property, and that shed contains just garbage and recycling bins. Shed 2 is in the rear yard along the northerly interior lot line. It's 0.04 meters from the interior lot line and 0.3 meters from Wooden Shed 1. It contains just yard items, shovels, household items. Next slide, please. So this slide is just the storage closets that are attached to the southerly wall of the building. The large storage closet is set back 0.39 meters from the southerly interior lot line and is used for storing spare lumber, a lawnmower, miscellaneous items like that. The small storage closet is 0.12 meters into the neighboring property. Again, the proposed owner will relocate that storage closet, so it's 1.14 meters from the southerly interior lot line. And this is just used to store sports equipment used by the owner and his children. Next slide, please. So this slide just shows a close-up of the proposed relocations for Wooden Shed 1 and the attached storage closet. Next slide. So this slide shows Wooden Shed 3 and the hot tub. Shed 3 is located in the rear yard in the northwest corner of the property. It's 0.36 meters from the northerly interior lot line and 0.59 meters from the rear lot line, and it's used as a workshop. The hot tub is located in the rear yard between Shed 2 and 3. It's set back 0.5 meters from the northern interior lot line, and the owner said he will explore the possibility of moving the electrical hookup so the hot tub can be moved south 0.1 meters. And I'd like to highlight the building permits were applied for and received for both of these structures. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the play structure in the rear yard. The play structure is 1.99 meters from the southerly interior lot line, 1.51 meters from the rear building wall of the house, and 4.63 meters from the rear lot line. The tallest part of the play structure is 4 meters in height, but most of the play structure is 2.6 meters in height. The structure is used by the property owner, his family and friends, and visitors to the property. Next slide, please. So this shows the requested variances. I won't read through them all, but I would like to highlight that some of the sheds are located within the easement for Hydro Ottawa and Bell. Building permits were issued for Wooden Shed 3 and the hot tub, and we received a letter from Hydro Ottawa signing off on the building permit for Shed 3, which is the one that's closest to the overhead lines. Hydro Ottawa had no concerns on the building permit for Shed 3 and no comments on the minor variance, which they were circulated on twice. Similarly, a building permit was issued for the hot tub and no concerns were raised by Hydro Ottawa with respect to that building permit. And there were again no comments on the variance on which they were circulated twice. And city staff further noted in the report that all the sheds could be relocated should Hydro or Bell need to enter the lands. Next slide, please. So the subject site is designated neighborhood in the outer urban transect within the City of Ottawa OP. It's also designated neighborhood in the secondary plan. The intent of the outer urban transect is to recognize suburban pattern of built form and site design, which includes accessory buildings and structures. There's no specific direction in the OP on accessory buildings and structures, but the existing accessory buildings and structures contribute to the function of the principal residential use of the property. And so the variances maintain the general intent.
1 minute, sir.
I'll try to do it in a minute. The variances maintain the intent and purpose of the OP. In terms of zoning, the site is zoned R10. Section 55 of the zoning bylaw permits accessory uses in any zone if it exists on the principal use to which it's accessory. The principal use is residential. The accessory buildings and structures are located on the same lot as the dwelling. And as described, they contribute to the residential use of the property. The intent of limiting the number of the accessory buildings and structures is to not overdevelop the site with accessory buildings. There's 5 accessory structures and buildings. 3 of the 5 sheds store household items. The cumulative area of the accessory buildings is 15.5 square meters, which is less than the maximum of 55 square meters. The intent of limiting the height is to eliminate, or is to limit visual impact on neighboring properties. All the accessory buildings and structures except the play structure meet the maximum permitted height. The fence around the property also provides some visual screening. The 4-meter height of the play structure is also limited to 2 elements of the structure that are located more than 1.99 meters from the interior side yard, which mitigates visual impact by the tallest portions of the structure. And so the variances maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. The existing play structure and hot tub are used by the owner, his family, and guests as part of their personal enjoyment of their property. It allows them to store household items. The house also has a carport, but not a garage, which is where you would typically store the types of items he has in his sheds. And so the accessory buildings with requested variances are appropriate for the residential use and are considered desirable for the use of land. And finally, the 4th test is whether they're considered minor in nature. The impact of the reduced setbacks between the accessory buildings and structures is mitigated by the existing fence around the backyard. Further, the tallest elements of the play structure are further away from the property lines, which mitigates visual impact. The impact of the reduced side yard is minor. Sufficient access is still provided. Total interior side yard setback of 3.93 meters exceeds the minimum total despite the reduced southerly interior side yard setback. The impact of the reduced setback between the accessory buildings and structures doesn't impede circulation through the site or limit functionality. The impact of the increased number of accessory buildings is minor, as the cumulative area of 15.5 square meters is less than the maximum permitted of 55. The impact of the storage sheds is 39.5 square meters less than if the owner had just simply built one storage shed that was 55 square meters on the property.
30 seconds, sir.
So the 15.5 square meter cumulative area ensures that there's more space for the play structure and the hot tub in the backyard, and the variances are considered minor in nature. Finally, I want to highlight that staff have no concerns with respect to any of the variances except for the variance related to the setback of the play structure. And as we noted previously, the tallest points of the play structure are set well back from the property line. Next slide. And so it's our opinion that the variances meet the 4 tests under 45(1) of the Planning Act and represent good land use planning.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to ask the panel if they have any questions. Mr. Baltz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's a number of questions. One is, how much of rear yard is paved?
So my understanding based on grading plans that we've seen is that the entire rear yard is paved, save and except for obviously the parts that are occupied by the accessory structures.
Which are sitting on pads.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
So I'm wondering then whether you can address the idea of soft landscaping and the need for providing trees and other soft landscaping in the rear yards, which I think is directed by the official plan.
Right. So first, in terms of trees, there were no trees on the property when the applicant went in and did and put in the hardscaping for the play structure as he did. And so in terms of, obviously there isn't a tree in the back. I can't say that there is, but there wasn't a tree that was removed as part of the interventions that were made. In terms of the soft landscaping, there isn't any soft landscaping provided in the rear yard. That said, there still is amenity space provided in the rear yard that is used by the property owner, his family, and his friends. And we do actually, and the property owner did actually submit or prepare a grading and drainage plan when he initially put in this hardscaping to ensure that there wouldn't be any drainage impacts. So in terms of soft landscaping, I do also note that especially in this area, the lots are fairly decent size, and you have a front yard that is entirely soft landscaped, and so there isn't a drainage concern. It still provides amenity area, and we didn't take out any trees. And I should also note that putting in this hardscaping did predate the applicable provisions of the zoning bylaw relating to requirements for soft landscaping in the rear yard. And so he would enjoy a legally non-conforming right to have paved that yard.
If I may, one more question, Mr. Chair. So in the submission, in the cover letter, it says that the structure whose height we're being asked to vary or provide a variant, approve a variance for, is for use of the owner, his children, and guests, or visitors to the property, I believe it says. We've heard also, well, we've heard variances before to convert the basement into business use to a larger area than had previously been permitted, and that was approved by the Ontario Land Tribunal. In which they say that the Ontario Land Tribunal's finding was that accessory structures are not to be permitted to be used by the client of the home-based business. So is it your testimony here that this structure will never be used by clients of the business, that it's only for personal use?
So just so I'm clear through you, Mr. Chair, this is in reference to the play structure, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it could be the reference to any of the stuff. The backyard area is not to be used for the business.
So
my understanding.
So I don't know if my colleague, Mr. Chown, is on the call. He may be more prepared to take that question as it relates to the OLT hearing. What I will say, though, is that the play structure is used by the owner and his friends. You know, if on occasion he is to take out someone to use the play structure, we don't believe that that infringes on the home-based business provisions of the zoning bylaw, which don't state that the home-based business cannot be carried outside. In fact, it states only a prohibition on outdoor storage. And so, you know, it would be akin to, for example, if I were to run a photography business out of my basement as a home-based business, and I teach people how to take photos, if I took them outside to take photos of my flower bed or whatever, that's not, you know, necessarily something that would go against the zoning bylaw. But I see that my colleague Murray Chown is on the call, and I think I'll defer to him on that.
Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. Sorry, I had to step away momentarily. I was making a critical appointment at the General Hospital. So I haven't heard all of my colleague Mr. Sewer's response, but I wanted to be very careful in terms of how people, including City of Ottawa staff, are interpreting the Ontario Land Tribunal decision with respect to the appeal on the previous variance application related to the size of the home-based business that occupies 50% or a little over 50% of the basement of the existing dwelling. Staff in their memo to the committee state, staff notes that the use of accessory structures are not permitted to be used by the client of the home-based business as per the Ontario Land Tribunal decision. Mr. Chair, members and committee, with all due respect to staff, nowhere in the decision does it say that. What it does say in the decision, where it references my evidence before the tribunal, it reports that our evidence was that the business has been operating for the past 10 years and neighbors only raised concerns in the past 3 years when business activities started to take place in the applicant's backyard. Those activities have since ceased. And furthermore, it quotes legal counsel who appeared on behalf of the owner applicant, who advised the tribunal that it was only once our client expanded his operations to the backyard to include cross-fitness sessions that concerns regarding noise and traffic were expressed by neighbors. Council confirmed that these activities have stopped. It is the applicant's intention to continue operating the business indoors. That's it. Those are the only references to the activity in the backyard in this decision. Nowhere does it say that the accessory structures are not permitted to be used by the client for the home-based business. I just want to be, don't want to read any misunderstanding as to what the tribunal said in their decision, but at the end of the day, that's not the matter that's before the committee today. That whether or not our client can use the facilities in the backyard as part of his business is part or will be part of ongoing discussions, negotiations, legal proceedings with the city of Ottawa. But the tribunal did not make a decision that's binding on anybody with respect to the use of those facilities. But please, that is not relevant to the application that's before you in terms of the tests on the minor variances. Happy to answer any more questions on the matter.
Just to follow up, so I'm not sure I will accept the testimony or the information that with your interpretation of the OLT decision. But implicit in there is the idea that there was an increased impact from the use, noise, and disruption and complaints that was directly tied to the use of that structure. So in our determining whether the requested variances are minor, at least as pertains to that structure, I think it may very well be relevant that it could be a source of disruption in its activities in that yard, where what led to the initial sets of complaints. Isn't that true? And that would directly be to whether this is a minor variance and is desirable or not.
The complaints, based on everything I've seen and read, were based on the noise, vibration of some of the activities that occurred in the backyard. I guess now it's probably 3 years ago, and those activities have ceased. And they've ceased on the recommendation from us and from legal counsel to our client, that until all these other matters are resolved, don't use the backyard for your business until the question of whether you're even allowed to use the backyard for these uses. Don't do it. That decision has not been, all I'm saying is that decision hasn't been made yet in court or anywhere else. In terms of the application that's before you today, it's not for you to determine whether or not the play structure can be used or any of the other facilities in the backyard can be used as part of the business. It's for you to measure the applications against the 4 tests, whether minor, whether it's appropriate, and whether it maintains the general purpose intent of the official plan or the zoning bylaw. You may determine that the variance isn't appropriate, and that's your prerogative to make that determination. But that determination shouldn't be based on the concern that about noise being generated by clients of the business using the equipment. The issue of noise being generated by clients of the business will be dealt with by the city through other ongoing proceedings.
Well, we can follow up with staff as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No.
Ms. McLean, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regard to the play structure, variances J and K, when I read section 55(3)(c), which is the provision you're bearing for the play structure, talks about a children's play structure. And what I'm hearing is that you want to add an adult, the use by an adult, friends and visitors. Is that correct? Because I'm wondering if you have the proper variances in front of us.
So through you, Mr. Chair, the zoning bylaw speaks to a children's play structure. This play structure is used by children and can be used by children, but it is also used by adults. You know, any sort of children's play structure could be used by an adult, but generally, this is something that, you know, it falls within, in our opinion, that definition of a children's play structure. And so, you know, again, being something that can be used by children or adults. And so it's not part of our applications today to change that or to vary that section of the bylaw, which refers to it as a children's play structure. And I don't know if my colleague, Mr. Chown, has more to say on that, but that would be my submission.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. McLean?
So can we amend variance J and K to add the word children's? As it's reflected in the zoning bylaw under that section 55?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think whether or not that's amended to say children's play structure or play structure wouldn't necessarily affect the use of the play structure, even if the language were to say children's play structure in the notice, it would still be used. It would still be a play structure that is used by children, the owner himself, and his family.
Just on the play structure, how tall is it?
So at its highest point, the play structure is 4 meters tall, and this was ascertained through our own measurement of the play structure. Most of the play structure is 2.6 meters tall, but there are elements, and I believe that may have been provided on my slide 9, but there are elements that vary in height between that 2.6 meters and 4 meters at the tallest point.
Now, the 4-meter height, is that too tall for a child?
Well, I would submit that the maximum height of a, let's say, a children's play structure in the zoning bylaw, I believe, is 3.6 meters, or yeah, I think it might be 3.6 meters. I don't remember off the top of my head. But in any case, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's too tall for a kid. I mean, a lot of the elements of that play structure, if we actually can put it up, are things like climbing ropes. I wasn't a particularly athletic child, but I'm sure some children could, you know, climb that up to 4 meters, no problem, especially the owner's kids who are undoubtedly quite athletic as he is.
Okay, so you think that you might need another variance to get it to 14 meters? Because it's at 13.6 is the requirement for the height of a child's play structure?
So I think it says, yeah, so I think we do have variance K, which states to permit the height of the play structure to be 4 meters, whereas the maximum permitted height of an accessory structure is 3.6 meters.
Perfect. Okay. All right, now we'll move on to, oh, I forgot. Ms. Wright, please go ahead, John.
Hi, I wanted to ask about your side yard setback interpretation. In your cover letter, you sort of at length talked about the 3 meters, 1 yard, not less than 1.2 meters. So is it your interpretation that you could have 1 yard that's at 3 meters and the other one at 0?
Correct. That would be our interpretation of the zoning bylaw. However, and Ms. Wright, we have made that submission to the Committee of Adjustment before on other files. That is not a position that city staff share, and so in the abundance of caution, we applied for relief, but that is our position.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, thank you very much.
Ms. McLean, would like to ask another question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have the sheds been relocated or you're proposing to relocate them?
We are proposing the applicant would be doing that after.
So
They have not
haven't,
been.
it's not, when it says on the plan, relocated sheds,
Um,
they haven't been relocated.
I don't know if we can throw the site plan up on there, but I think, or I'd hope that they say proposed to be relocated, and if they don't, that is what they should say. It's proposed to be relocated.
Anything else? Okay, that's right.
All right, back to me, through you again, Mr. Chair. You mentioned with respect to the concrete slab that a plan was submitted. I think a grading and drainage plan, probably to the city, I guess it was approved. Was there any discussion about having the slab on top of the easement that runs along the side? So I think planning, talked about with respect to the sheds being easily removed. Is the slab also easily removed?
So, through you, Mr. Chair, so, just to back up a bit, so that, plan was a grading and drainage plan. We didn't submit that with our application, but that was submitted by the client in, 2022 and approved. In terms of, whether there was any discussion, of the impact, on the easement, I'll make 2 points on that. One, my understanding of the easement document is that the purpose of that easement is access for Hydro Ottawa and Bell to maintain and do whatever they need to do to their infrastructure. And I don't think that having that slab there would adversely impact that. And then I would also say that this application would have been circulated to Hydro Ottawa, who would have had the opportunity to review that. I think our application doesn't withhold the fact that that is a slabbed area in the back. And so reviewing the submission items, they would have had the opportunity to comment if they felt that there was an impact to their ability to access, and they didn't make that comment to us.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may just add to Mr. Sewer's response. To be clear, the easement is to access and maintain overhead Bell and hydro lines. So if anything, the concrete slab actually makes it easier for hydro to access those overhead lines. There would be no issue whatsoever with respect to the concrete slab.
Mr. Barrett, you'd like to ask another question?
Yes, just through you, Mr. Chair, with regards to the grade and drainage plan, was it inspected by the cities? I know it was approved, but was it inspected?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure, to be honest, if any inspection had taken place. We looked at the grading plan and are obviously not qualified to make that determination. But I'm not sure if an inspection was carried out. I don't know if Mr. Chown might have a better memory of that, or if Mr. Lalonde does, but I don't recall if it was inspected or not.
Mr. Chown? Do you have anything to add? Looks like he's
I
frozen.
have no knowledge of whether it was inspected or not.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. He's frozen. Okay. You have another question? Okay.
Sorry, if you're speaking to me, I have no knowledge of whether it was.
Just a second part to that question is, can you give us some indication of how the grade and drainage works on site? Because we haven't seen the plan.
So I can pull up the grading and drainage plan for myself to review here, but let's just see if I can look at it. Obviously, through you, Mr. Chair, I wouldn't be qualified to provide any opinion on how a grading and drainage plan works. My understanding is that there were catch basins, or there is a catch basin installed in the concrete pad, and that I guess it looks like it's sloped towards that catch basin so that the runoff would go to that catch basin. But to be honest, that's the extent of my knowledge of grading and drainage.
Thank you for your response.
Okay, now we're going to move on to planning services. Ms. King, do you have any comments to make about this application?
Sure, happy to make some comments and then maybe answer some of the questions that have happened, but let me go through my planning report and then we can do some follow-up questions from there. So generally, staff have no concerns with the majority of the variances. So those being variances, I believe A through I, that's particularly dealing with the shed structures and the hot tub with reduced setbacks from each other. We believe that those are meeting the 4 tests. The concerns that staff do have are in particular to the reduced interior yard setback for that play structure, to the zoning bylaw requires that the setback be equal to the height of the structure. And in this case, it is complying with the rear yard setback, but not the interior yard setback. And we have some concerns that's not really maintaining the intent, because the intent of that provision is to kind of limit the size and scale of these play structures because they do have that increased height. So really our concerns are kind of just with how large the structure is and where it's currently located, just some concerns with is the intent of that setback being maintained. But I'm happy to elaborate further or answer the other panel's questions.
Sorry. Well, just before we get into questions from the rest of the panel, how often is it? Sorry, you guys. There we go. So the size, what's the in numbers? How far are they off from the required setbacks?
So right now, the interior side yard setback is 1.99 meters. So even if it was a zoning compliant height of like that 3.6, they would still need that interior side yard variance because their interior side yard variance would have to be that 3.6 meters if we're going to be absolute maximum, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Now, from my working experience, there's a requirement for our service techs to not work above a certain height. So otherwise you have to go and take a certain course working at heights. Is there something like that for play structures too? Because I know we can't go above 10 feet and now we're at substantially more than that.
Well, sorry, I'm just trying to think how to answer your question, but like another concern kind of with this, like just generally, if it's any kind of play structure, like to have that setback equal to the height, I guess kind of think, what if in the instance that the structure is compromised, at least if it falls over, if we're just going to assume it's just going to go 90-degree fall,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be falling on a neighbor's property, or it should be still self-contained within that property. Like, I guess you could kind of think of it in that way. I'm trying to think of like ladder safety training. I know that's not applicable in this case, but trying to connect the points here. But like, that's also like another reason why that setback is important in this case.
Okay. On the zoning bylaw, does it allow home-based businesses? Does the zoning bylaw allow home-based businesses?
So the zoning bylaw permits a home-based business to operate within the dwelling. In this case, this particular property was granted an increased GFA, so gross floor area, but that was to the use contained within the basement. And as per earlier discussions, outdoor activities have ceased, but I can't, like, that's as far as I really have on that it's just operating within the dwelling, from my understanding.
Okay. Does the zoning bylaw limit the use to inside the building? That was my other question, yeah. So does the zoning bylaw require?
From my understanding with the OLT order, that was granted based on the gross floor area within the dwelling.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask the rest of the panel if they've got any questions. Mr. Baltz, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'll just come back to that question. So in general, if someone has a home-based business of whatever sort, what are the rules about using outdoor space as part of that business? Are there any? I mean, just in general?
So in general, for home-based businesses, at least for like just the general home-based business, there are rule-based home-based provisions. I'm not really going to get into those because that's a different can of worms. But outdoor storage is prohibited. I'm not seeing anything that would allude to outdoor storage because that's a different. That's a particular point with the home-based businesses, but generally, like, they can't. Sorry, just give me 1 second here. We've mentioned this point before, but like section 127(1)A is that they must not become a nuisance of noise, odor, dust, fumes, vibration, radiation, glare, or traffic. That's another point. But I don't really want to get too much into the home-based provisions because it's not a variance that we're dealing with right now. All I really have is the OLT order and.
Right. No, I'm just trying to, so what we get to consider is impact.
Mhm.
Right. And what I'm struggling with is it's a very different impact of this structure. If it's some children and their guests and maybe the occasional, friend who comes over to climb, than if it's a CrossFit training facility, right? So it may or may not, even without being able to consider what the OLT said or what the home-based business provisions say, whether a variance is desirable is heavily dependent on the impact it has on the adjacent and nearby properties, correct?
The only thing I can really add is that, like, the planning department, like, doesn't have any recent evidence to suggest that the play structure is currently being used by the home-based business, and that's as far as I can really elaborate on that.
Understood, but I think at least intimated in the prior testimony from the applicants, they're waiting for other processes to play out to determine whether or not that's going to be part of the business. So it's at least in the cards that may be used at some point after approval as a CrossFit training facility, I assume.
That I can't really speak on.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions? No, we don't. Ms. McLean, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. King, any comment on the wording of the variances J and K as far as omitting the word children's?
I would leave that at the discretion of the committee. Just going through like the zoning bylaw definitions, the zoning bylaw doesn't explicitly define a play structure. There's definitions obviously for building and structure and like what defines a building and structure, but I don't have anything further to what would differentiate it from a children's play structure versus just a play structure. So that's all I really have.
The accessory provision or accessory structure provision that we're being asked to vary refers to a children's play structure. But if we leave it out of the bylaw requirement, is there something missing there, or are we?
No, I believe you're still like varying the same provision because they're operating with the idea that those are the provisions that they're following. There's no other setback provision for them to follow because it's not like, for example, when I go through the accessory provisions, like for setbacks for interior lot lines, it's broken down into whether it's a shared carport or garage, a children's play structure, an above ground pool, or other accessory structures which would likely be like a shed in this instance. So in terms of what are the categories that would fit in for setbacks, it would have to fall under the play structure setbacks.
Would you object to having children's play structure put as part of that condition?
So we wouldn't object, through Mr. Chair. I think what panel member McLean is asking is that the language of the bylaw is used, which is children's play structure, and she's correct that is the language used. In our view, materially, there is no difference between a children's play structure and a play structure, and in terms of the bylaw, there is no definition for either term, and so a children's play structure, as it's referred to in the bylaw, would not preclude any of the individuals using the play structure right now.
Perfect, thank you. Oh, anything further, Ms. McLean?
No, thank you.
Ms. Wright?
No, I don't.
Okay, Mr. Barrett?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to staff. Why would a building permit not be needed to build a permanent structure, play structure of that size? As it is permanent, I would assume it's fastened to the concrete deck. It's not portable like most play structures. So and it's high. So would a building permit have been required?
So building code staff did review this application, and they noted that none of the structures required building permits aside from shed number 3, which did have an issued building permit and which will likely need to amend the application pending the decision of this file, but they did not say that the play structure triggered a building permit.
Thank you. Anything further?
This question's for Mr. Seward.
Sure. Yes, you can ask. So Mr. Sir, Ms. McLean has a couple of questions for you.
Just regarding the relocation of the sheds, any consideration in relocating them in accordance with the bylaw? Is there any reason why that can't be met?
So, through you, Mr. Chair, it's our applicant, or it's the owner's intent to resolve the encroachments because obviously, it's not the interest of anyone to proceed with encroachments of, your building onto someone else's property. And so the interest is to resolve those encroachments. The requirements of the zoning bylaw to have the sheds set back a certain amount, and I think in places it would be 1.2 meters, and if it's in the rear yard, it would be 0.6 meters from the rear and interior lot lines. The intent of that is to ensure that there's adequate spacing and to ensure that there's really one of the intents is actually to ensure that visual impact is mitigated. And our submission has been to the committee that visual impact is mitigated. Our applicant has a fairly high fence that goes around the entirety of his rear yard, and that visually screens the sheds from view. And so it would just be at this point to resolve the encroachments and not to resolve the rest or to move the other sheds to meet the bylaw.
Thank you. Okay, now I'd like to go to Miss, do we already get to you already, Miss King? We did, okay. Just want to make sure I know where I'm going. Now, last item is for you, Mr. Sewer. You have the opportunity. Oh, no, I got the public to see if the public would like to make any comments. Is there anyone here present that would like to make some comments on this application? Anyone online?
Doesn't appear that anyone online wants to come forward, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so now the last word is to you, Mr. Sewer. Thank you.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to pass it over to Mr. Chow, and he indicated he'd like to make the closing comments.
Okay, Mr. Chow?
So thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. If I may say so, it's been a very interesting discussion this afternoon on the applications, and I think it's all very important for the committee to understand the nature of the application and the nature of the variances being sought. I note that the vast majority of the discussion and the questions have been related to the play structure, the variances associated with the play structure. And, I note that planning staff have no issues with all of the variances associated with the other accessory buildings, including the number of accessory structures and the relief we're seeking for their setbacks, but they did have some concerns with respect to the play structure. So I remind the committee that you are open to the possibility of approving all of the variances that staff have indicated meet the 4 tests that we believe meet the 4 tests. And you may treat the variances associated with the play structure differently. I appreciate the comments with respect about the possible impacts of the play structure as something that the committee has to consider in their deliberations. And as we acknowledge staff have expressed some concerns with respect to the variances associated with the play structure. So, we believe that the variances associated with the play structure do meet the 4 tests. The interior side yard setback requirement is determined by the tallest element of that play structure, which you've heard is in the order of 4 meters tall, but it is far more than 4 meters from the interior lot line. So it's a little misleading to think of that variance as allowing for a 4 meter tall structure to be located close to the interior lot line. That's not the case, and that's not the way the play structure has been constructed. But regardless, we do need the variance. We believe it makes the 4 test. We would encourage you to approve all of the variances, but failing that, I would ask the committee to consider approving all of the variances that staff have advised you they believe meet the 4 tests, and we believe meet the 4 tests. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to your decision.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask the panel if they would like to reserve on this application. All those in favor, please raise your hands. We'll be reserving on this decision, Mr. Sewer and Mr. Chown. You'll receive our written confirmation of the decision within 10 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Well, now we're moving on to our final application today, which has to do with 2544 Gravelle. And I'm looking for Mr. Hume. There he is.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of committee.
Would you please just state your name and your address, sir?
Peter Hume, 2405 St. Laurent Boulevard, Unit P. That's in Ottawa, K1G 5B4.
Great. So would you like to make a brief presentation on?
I would, Mr. Chairman. I provided just a very brief outline to the committee that we'll walk through, but we were here 2 weeks ago and we deferred the application for an opportunity to speak to the committee, to speak to the community. That happened last Thursday night. Ms. Clark and I hosted a Zoom meeting to discuss the application. I'm not sure that it resolved any, I'm almost positive that I can say it didn't resolve any of the community's concerns. But we did walk through the various policy issues that were at play here. And I think it's important for me to convey to the committee that although there was a healthy discussion, the discussion wasn't necessarily related to the consent application and the applicability of the planning policy. But in my opinion only, and you'll hear from the committee, it related to the form of development that would take place after the consent application was would be finalized, and that development is opposed by the community. Although it is zoning compliant, or the proposal is zoning compliant, the community does not believe that this neighborhood should be any more than a single family home neighborhood. I think we received that impression very clearly. So I want to convey to you that we believe the consent application on its merits is appropriate when applied to the tests of the Planning Act. Unfortunately, the issues raised by the community relate to the use and to the zoning performance standards, which aren't at play here at the committee. So if we want to just walk through we have a brief presentation, and then I can speak to the issue. So this is a consent application to create 2 lots, and 2 lots in on Gravelle Crescent to allow for the construction of 2 long semi with associated or with additional dwelling units. So we're creating, and the test for that consent application is the applicability of Section 51, Part 24. I'll note that when we apply the provincial policy statement and that the application, the consent application complies, or actually strongly complies with the provincial policy statement, which looks to provide all housing options in areas appropriate considering the city's official plan. And the PPS talks about all types of residential intensification. It promotes densities for new housing to provide efficient use of land and resources. So this is the type of application that the PPS, and it is a new PPS, 2024, supports. It's also an application that's consistent with and is supported by the city's official plan. The official plan designation here is neighborhood with an evolving neighborhood overlay. So it, by its very nature, is where intensification should occur. And if we were talking about minor variances here, I would be using the official plan to argue that, you know, minor variances before the committee would be appropriate because of that designation. But the thing about this application is there are no minor variances required. In fact, when you start to look at section Part 24 compliance, and you look at the applicability of the zoning bylaw, one of the things that you look at in the Planning Act compliance is the dimension and shapes of the proposed lots. Those dimensions and shapes which you would apply the zoning bylaw tests to. Well, if you look at the two lots that are being created, the lot widths are 20% greater than what's required under the zoning bylaw. The lot areas are in excess of 100% greater than the requirements of the zoning bylaw. So when you start to look at those tests are met by that application. I can walk through the section 24 compliance for you, but we believe that the consent is appropriate as opposed to a plan of subdivision, that it conforms to the official plan. The land is suitable. There are services in Gravelle Crescent or Gravelle Street that are available to be used, and that the development is consistent with the provincial policy statement, and it is in and respects the provincial interests. So which are the tests, separate and distinct from the 4 tests of a minor variance, right? So these are, and we believe they comply. So, and I just have one more.
30 seconds.
No, it's okay. I'll use that to wrap, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I'd like to ask panel if they have any questions for the applicant. Ms. McLean? Mr. Baltz? Okay, Mr. Barrett? No, not yet. Okay, Ms. Wright?
No, I do not.
Okay. Moving on to planning services. Ms. Einkaran, do you have any comments to make with respect to this application?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff have no concerns with the application, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Ms. McLean, any questions for planning? No? Mr. Baltz?
Just to confirm what Mr. Hugh was saying, when we sever this, everything complies completely to the zoning bylaw that's currently in effect there.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Barrett?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to staff, the current services that are on this street, are they, do they have the capacity for the development?
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Engineering staff are aware of any areas in the city that have capacity issues, and this is not an area that was flagged by the engineering staff, so there's capacity in this area. Yes.
That's right. Any questions?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Okay, now we have quite a few people from the public that'd like to make some comments. And I really applaud you. That's great that you're coming in and taking such interest in the development of this property. We do have a 5-minute time limit. I know there was a request for some people to have 10, some other people to have 3, but I really got to shoehorn you into that 5-minute time limit. In addition to that, we really have to focus on the tests for a severance here. We can't get involved in other items because it's not what we can make a decision on. We have a very narrow playing field that we have to stay within. So to that end, I think I have the list of people that want to speak and I have an order. So the first person I have is Cindy Calvert. And the next person up would be Joseph Nimmey. Well, one at a time can sit at the front. I'm not sure how you guys, doesn't matter. Can you state your name and your address, please?
Yes, good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Cindy Calvert, and I reside at 2536 Gravelle Crescent in Blackburn Hamlet. I am going to reiterate my request to speak for about 7 or 8 minutes. I had a 10-minute presentation. I cut it down to about 6, but I have taken out parts that respond to things that Mr. Hume said. The alternative would be to break the continuity and allow another speaker to carry on where I leave off. She is willing to give her time to me just so I can finish within that time frame.
Well, let's see how you go. I've been pretty reasonable in allowing people to go past their time today. So it's just trying to keep everybody sort of in line. And we all should keep in mind that it has to be new information. It's not just repetitive information going forward. Yours is going to be brand new. All of your information is going to be brand new, but the others that are going to speak, they should also have new information coming to the table. So please proceed.
I have a slide presentation just to.
Okay.
I appreciate this opportunity to speak, and I'm here not representing just myself, but also many concerned residents. Next slide, please. My presentation summarizes our concerns, and there are various written submissions that I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. Just let me breathe. Okay. I've listed the 3 written submissions, 2 of which I submitted and 1 was submitted by the community. First is the neighborhood submission, which is written where we have consolidated the neighborhood concerns into 1 report. It's lengthy, I'm sorry. I know that's work for you, but that's where we got. There was also the petition to oppose the severance, which was signed by 79 residents of Gravelle Crescent, and there are my comments to the committee as the owner of the abutting property at 2536 Gravelle Crescent. I'm using my time to focus on the first. I will make 1 very minor sentence with respect to the abutting property. My personal interests I'm setting aside. I want to emphasize that we are not against responsible development. We understand that the neighborhoods evolve, and we are all aware of the current province-wide housing shortage. Some, like myself, have spent our entire careers working on social justice issues, including housing and homelessness. However, any development must align with the existing character, safety, infrastructure, and long-term planning goals of our community. This consent application does not facilitate a development that meets those standards. Due to recent legislative changes, today's hearing is the only opportunity for community members to voice our concerns. If this severance is granted, we will have no further say in the matter, especially as it relates to our key concern, public safety. This makes this decision critical. Next slide, please. There are 4 key reasons why this severance should be denied. Excessive intensification, safety and parking risks, infrastructure and drainage failures, non-compliance with the planning policies. Next slide, please. There are currently 52 dwellings on Gravelle Crescent, predominantly bungalows, but also attached 2-story homes, semi-detached homes, and row houses. The severance would allow 12 dwellings to be built on 1 single lot, increasing the number of dwellings on Gravelle Crescent by 23.5%. Without severance, the property could still be developed, but only up to 6 lots on the unit, a far more reasonable and appropriate intensification of 11.75%, with enough room for adequate on-site parking and green space for the people living in those rental units. What is being proposed is an unprecedented level of density for our streets. our street. The infill developments the applicant references in their submission are not comparable. Those are single-family homes on individual lots with proper parking and green space. Allowing this level of intensification would set a dangerous precedent, opening the door for similar inappropriate developments across our community. All housing options are included in Blackburn Hamlet, but they don't all have to occur on every street. Next slide, please. Safety and parking risks. The consent application will allow 2 buildings on the existing lot and only 4 on-site parking spaces for 12 dwellings, far below what is needed. A recent study done for the city of Ottawa found that 95% of ground-oriented households in the Ottawa urban transect own at least 1 car, with nearly half owning 2 or more. That's the level of parking and the level of cars that can be anticipated by the people who move into these units. What does this mean for Gravelle Crescent? It means at least 13 additional vehicles will be parked on the street at pretty much all times. This is not a minor inconvenience, it's a serious safety hazard. Gravelle Crescent has no sidewalks, meaning pedestrians, cyclists, and children share the road with vehicles. More on-street parking will turn our quiet crescent into an obstacle course for emergency responders, snowplows, walkers and cyclists, parents pushing strollers, and most importantly, children playing. Additionally, emergency vehicles would need clear access to every home. Approval of this consent, Approval of this consent would allow a proposal that increases safety risk for both current and future residents. Next slide, please. Infrastructure and drainage failures. The city's drainage regulations require that all stormwater remain on the property's boundaries. However, this proposal leaves no space for effective drainage solutions. With 2 buildings, narrow pathways with stairs, and a shared driveway, there is no opportunity for proper stormwater management. Gravelle Crescent has a high water level, and there's a history of basement flooding. Several homes adjacent to 2544 Gravelle rely on sump pumps as backup flooding protection. Increasing impervious surfaces will not only make this problem worse, it will likely cause flooding on neighboring properties. Next slide, please. Non-compliance with planning policies.
2 minutes.
The proposal contradicts multiple planning policies, including the 2024 provincial planning statement, which requires municipalities to confirm infrastructure capacity before approving intensification. The Provincial Planning Act, where applications for consent must have regard for the health, safety, convenience, accessibility for persons with disabilities, and the welfare of present and future inhabitants, and the city's official plan. If severed, the law will permit a development that at this point fails several tests for responsible development as enumerated in the written submission. The written submission goes through each of those documents and clause by clause has looked at where this would fail. And I'm not going to go through that, obviously. We provided that on the written submission. It's the applicant's burden to provide hard evidence that the consent will comply with all of the requirements under the 2024 Provincial Policy Statement, the Provincial Planning Act, the Ottawa Official Plan, and the Ottawa Zoning Bylaws. The application for consent presented today does not do that. The table addressing the Planning Act Section 5124 criteria for consent applications provides vague general statements instead of evidence of compliance, and the matters of provincial interest as set out in Section 2 are not addressed or included in the application at all. Next slide, please. In summary, this severance should be denied because it allows excessive intensification that is inconsistent with the neighborhood, creates serious safety and parking risks for pedestrians, cyclists, and emergency vehicles, fails to address the infrastructure and draining concerns, and contradicts the key planning proposals. Chair and committee members, approving the severance would have an irreversible impact on our community. Once granted, it cannot be undone, even if future safety or infrastructure problems arise. Severance should only be approved when it benefits both the property owner and the community. In this case, the only party that benefits is the owner-developer, while residents are left to deal with the consequences. I urge you to reject the severance to protect safety, infrastructure, and the character of our neighborhood. If, despite these evidence-based concerns, the committee chooses to provisionally approve this severance, we have identified several conditions in the 2 written submissions that should be added to the list provided in the planning report. These include a stormwater management plan, a parking study, and a traffic impact study. With respect to my property, which abuts the subject property, I request an updated tree report to include the native cedar privacy hedges located primarily on my property and a shadow study. We also respectfully request that you provide clear reasons in your decision as to why the significant community concerns, which could only be resolved by denying the severance, did not apply to this application. Last slide, please. Thank you for your time and consideration.
You're welcome. Ms. Calvert, did you read the requested conditions that the city has asked for if
Yes,
this
we did.
application is approved?
And they,
And they do address at least one of your concerns. They want a grading and service plan. That's
Yes.
what they would also like, and they would a grading and drainage plan as well. So that's required. Okay, so, just so you know, some of these things have already been addressed by the city.
can I just clarify that a stormwater management plan is considered within that? Because I know some planning reports use
Is
that
it
language and I'm not
I'll
sure.
ask, we'll ask,
Thank you.
Ms. Einkran, is stormwater management part of that requirement?
Thank you, Chair. Stormwater management plans are typically requested only in certain neighborhoods, and engineering has not flagged a requirement for a stormwater management plan. The grading and drainage plan will ensure that the existing drainage patterns and it does not allow excess drainage onto the neighboring properties.
So there is some things that have been addressed to your comments.
Okay. Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Calvert? Mr. Barrett? Ms. Wright? Ms. McLean? Oh, Mr. Baltz?
But first, just like to say it's great when the community comes out like this. I'm here now because I was in your seat for many years as a community association rep, as Mr. Hume knows from me coming before him when he was chair of planning committee. But what we're being asked to look at here is whether to sever this big lot into two lots that comply with the zoning in your area. And I'm struggling to, regardless of what the zoning bylaw then allows to be built on there without our permission. I'm struggling to understand how creating two lots which are compliant with with the zoning in your area and pretty typical for your area is going to cause all of these problems.
By severing the property, it allows the two buildings, which because of the housing criteria, and the provincial policy statement, you're now allowed to put in the additional dwelling units, up to 3. In effect, the severance is allowing now semi-detached building, and when it's a semi-detached building, you don't have to formally have a lot for each, but it's assumed it's a lot. So the severance creates 2 lots. By putting on a semi, it's almost 4 lots. And there's only a requirement that you have 1 parking spot for each of the principal units in those lots, which means 4. However, there are 2 additional units in every single one of those dwellings. So if the severance isn't allowed, you could only have 1 of the semis, which would represent 6 units. And there would be enough room left over if it's designed in the way that this is, or even better, for enough parking spaces to allow at least 1 parking spot for each. And so the community is well aware that this is the way of the future. We're well aware of the housing crisis, but severing a lot that is the only way you can permit these 12 additional units. If there's no severance, there's no 12. And if there is no severance, there is room for parking for the 6 that could be put there. And we're well aware this is intensification, and we're not saying we're not opposed to what is, allowed on the existing lot, but by severing it and doubling it and creating almost 25% more houses or more dwellings on one street, a very old street. I'm surprised by the report that says, we don't have those kinds of issues. It's a really old street. But it's just that, and that's why we're focused. I mean, we've worked a lot. I don't represent a community association. I'm just a retired woman who lives next door. Thought I'd never deal with this kind of stuff again in my life. But I've been learning a lot really fast, and we've worked as a community. People came up individually, and we worked together to try and consolidate our thoughts and learn about this. And the idea, first of all, was, oh my gosh, all of these. But when it was very clear that right now, today, they can go in, tear that building down, and put in a semi that allows 6 lots, that was something that we wrapped our heads around and said, you know, we can do that. If there's parking, there isn't the huge safety issue, and it is huge. So that's sort of how we've really tried to focus on the severance being the only thing we're talking about today. But all of these things do lie over it. We're not looking at the site plan itself in detail.
Okay, yep, thank you. That helps, and we'll hear, I'm sure, from other people with other aspects of this. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Calvert.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Nemi, I think you're the next one on deck, and sorry, up and on deck is Leslie Sharkey. Please let us know who you are and where you live.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the panel. My name is Joseph Nemi. I live on 2551 Gravelle Crescent, across from the proposed project since 2004. Plumbing contractor, 3 decades in the field. Providing service throughout the city of Ottawa, particularly my neighborhood. After 21 years living and working in Blackburn Hamlet, I can confidently say had covered most plumbing issues in the surrounding. I am here to highlight the issues we are facing on our street, as well the more serious ones when intensification takes place. Out of the 52 dwelling on Gravelle, only 14 can enjoy a decent flow and water pressure, while the rest of us can't wash when someone is showering in the same house due to half-inch water service, where plumbing code now and has been for a while, minimum 3/4 for a reason. At a peak use in the area, we have a drop in water pressure. It feels like the main is shut and the pipes draining sometimes. Having 20 people, if not more, added on the crescent, it's going to affect us furthermore. Where the above may be a small issue, sanitary lateral is the bigger and costly one. Only one house on Gravelle has backwater valve. Having an extra load from a young group occupant highly to be will result in turning finished basement into a septic tank. A record at the city may confirm the possibility of such things to happen. It is a serious concern for me and should be for everyone who does not want to be caught in such a situation, whether a homeowner or authority permitting such a risk. One more thing pertaining to my experience is roof and groundwater on this project, increasing from the 1,000 to 4,000 footprint. Majority of us on some pump system with a vast greenery to dispose of. I do ask the Committee of Adjustment to raise the question to city planners for further consideration of all the issues being raised around this proposed project. I want to say this before I end my submission. The original hearing of this matter was only 2 weeks ago on March 4th, 2025. We asked for an adjournment to adequately prepare to oppose this application, but the committee only granted us 2 weeks. There is a lot of material to review, and we have done our best in the time given. However, we also have full-time jobs. I think the timing is important to highlight because my understanding is that we cannot appeal to the Ontario Land Trench Tribunal. This is only chance to oppose this consent application, and we are being rushed in when his committee is considering 9 other properties today at this hearing. This consent application represents a big change for our neighborhood. We have attempted to highlight serious issues relating to traffic, planning, parking, drainage, and safety if this application is approved. We hope this committee denies the application. Finally, the laws have 2 purposes, enforcing and protecting. If it does one and not the other, it's a deception. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask the panel if they have any questions for Mr. Nemi. Mr. Barrett. Thank you. Ms. Wright. Ms. McLean. Mr. Bolts?
Maybe I'll direct it to Mr. Hume and Ms. Ankaren. What do we know about the water service on that street? Is the pressure problem because of the connections to the existing houses, or is there really low water?
I'm going to have to defer to city staff on that. No documentation from the city's engineering department has been provided to us that would indicate that there are any deficiencies in any of the services that are currently along Gravelle. So,
And engineering has seen this, I guess, as usual, right?
Yes, engineering has confirmed that the water pressure is higher than the minimum allowed pressure and is within range in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much, Mr. Nemi.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Leslie Sharkey is up next. And on deck is Danielle Saracen.
Hi, Mr. Chair. How are you? Thank you for having this. Is it possible to have the video? Was it able to There we go. Okay, I just want to do an introduction first.
Can you say your name and your address, please?
My name's Leslie Sharkey. I live just kind of across from the proposed project at 2531 Gravelle Crescent.
Thank you.
I'm here today to express my strong opposition and to the proposed severance and the development of 2544 Gravelle Crescent. I understand the City of Ottawa has a goal of increasing the density through infill projects, and I have firsthand experience with the effects of such developments. I previously lived at Heron Gate redevelopment and was involved with that project. And then I decided to move to Blackburn to pay the premium to get away from that neighborhood, pay the premium to have a single family dwelling home. Now, I understand the increase of development of that we need to provide. I understand that, but the severance, again, what Cindy mentioned, is increasing too much for the street. My concern is safety. I moved to Blackburn for safety. We moved, when we were in Blackburn, we built the house on Blackburn to accommodate the aura of Gravelle. Now, all my family lives on Gravelle. My grandchildren live on Gravelle. Across the street, we have 7 kids from one dwelling. And they're running the streets. There's no sidewalks, there's nothing. So safety is my concern, being a grandmother. I'm going to ask to play a video that a colleague, Danielle, was able to put together. Now, the proposed project is the house on the left, and I live on this side to the right. But just a quick video to let you know of the personality of our neighborhood. There's no sound, Sarah. The sound would be important. I'm still going to make it within the 5 minutes, I promise.
Yeah, you're okay.
Now, this shows you what will happen when the units, when the proposed project is in motion, because there's nowhere for the vehicles to park. There's 2 parking spots. Where are the other cars going to park? So we were trying to demonstrate the congestion it's going to provide, and by chance there was a paratranspo that came down the street. Right in front of the proposed project has a fire hydrant. So again, where are the cars going to park with so many kids on the street? So the proposed construction of 12 dwelling units on a single lot is completely out of step with the rest of the Crescent. Unlike the surrounding family dwellings, this development introduces a high-density housing that does not fit with the established neighborhood. I understand we're increasing it, but we're asking at least for one unit for the a building with the 6 units. Each property has their own driveways. Yes, there's a mixture of housing on the street. There's single bungalows, there's semi-detached, there's, a few townhouses. There's different varieties. Blackburn Hamlet homes are unique and consistent among the side streets. I feel the city decides, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, when they measure their consideration for local preservation, personality, and architectural consistencies is not really judged without showing the videos and showing the neighborhood. The lack of open space and the community impact. The buildings they have no extra space on the property.
2 minutes.
And the lack of property ownership. If all these units are going to be rentals, where's the pride in keeping the property clean? You saw in the video, every neighborhood, we're all mixed together and we all take care of our home. There's proudness with the ownership. So the high density and safety and parking concerns. With the City of Ottawa's site, if I'm not correct, the vehicles are permitted to park in one spot on the street for 3 hours between 7 and 7 p.m., Monday to Friday, and for 6 hours between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. on the weekends and statutory holidays. There are no restrictions on overnight parking. This regulation is largely enforced on a complaint basis. That might have to happen, but like you have 2 vehicles in the parking spot. There are going to be 10 other vehicles on the street. And also, when you set a precedent of one building, one lot being able to be severed and have 6 units, we know it's going to happen down, like on other properties on the street. I had another question too. If there was a court or a circle, if they're allowed to build 6 units, what would happen with all the parking in that circle? Now, I know when I was driving down my old neighborhood in the Alta Vista area, a lot of the homes are in line with the other homes, but throwing 2 separate townhomes, semi-detached on this lot is really intensifying and providing an unsafe neighborhood for our children, our grandchildren. So I'm asking, thank you for listening to me, and I'm asking if the committee can hold back on the severance and go with the 6 units.
Okay, thank you very much for your input. Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions for Ms. Sharkey? Ms. Wright?
No, I don't.
Okay, Ms. McLean? Mr. Baltz?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your help. Okay, next up, Danielle Sarrazin. And after Danielle is Beverly Sarrazin.
Actually, my mom won't speak today. My dad will, however, Marcel.
Marcel, okay. Your name and your address, please.
Danielle Sarrazin, 2931 Jade Lane. I'm here speaking on behalf of my mom.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Actually, before I start, I just wanted to point out that the front yard that you saw in that video is my parents' front yard.
Well, I saw your dad in the background. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And my mom too.
Okay.
So as I said, my name is Danielle Sarrazin. I'm here to express my strong opposition to the proposed severance and development at 2544 Gravelle Crescent. Although I no longer live in the neighborhood, I was born and raised at 2539 Gravelle Crescent. And my parents, now 86 and 90 years old, still live directly across from the proposed development. Blackburn Hamlet was never just another subdivision. It was built with intention, with Costain Realties working alongside the Township of Gloucester and the National Capital Commission. to ensure that homes were spaced properly, green spaces preserved, and high-density housing carefully planned in designated areas. The proposed severance and development at 2544 Gravelle is not carefully planned, and it's an example of urban planning failure, in my opinion. It doesn't respect the existing balance, openness, and character of the street. Just to speak a little bit to what was just said, yes, there is a mix of housing on the street. However, right next to that property, it's essentially surrounded by single-family homes. The severance and development should be compatible with existing land use patterns and enhance the neighborhood's character. While there are a few semi-detached homes in the middle of the crescent, they are low profile, blending into the neighborhood. And very importantly, they all have sufficient parking for the people who live there. This is not the case with this particular property. Even if the severance goes forward, it's still not adequate parking, in my opinion. Severing the property, allowing for 2 multi-unit buildings and 12 units would create an overwhelming density completely out of step with the rest of the street. My main concern is safety. Severing this property will result in only allowing for 4 parking spaces for 12 units, which will lead to a significant issue with overflow parking and more cars traveling up and down the street. So it's not just the parking, it's also the volume of cars traveling up and down the street. I'd just like to add that, people in the neighborhood are very well aware of all the children that live on this street and are very careful when they travel down that street in their cars. Gravelle Crescent also lacks sidewalks, so cars parked on the street would force pedestrians, including my parents who use walkers, to walk directly in traffic. Winter conditions will make this even more dangerous. I believe an impact study on traffic, safety, and longstanding residents should be conducted for this proposal, specifically before it is approved, since severance increases the traffic and number of cars parked on the street. I'm also concerned with the impact of this type of misplaced development on the values of properties. I know this is not something that you consider, however, I think it is important to point out that high-density projects like this one have been shown to lower property values by up to 15%, which would result in a significant collective loss for homeowners on our street. This development does not belong on Gravelle Crescent. It does not enhance our neighborhood, and it does not serve the interest of those who have built their lives here. You'll hear from my dad shortly. He's been living there 67 years. Approving this proposal would set a dangerous precedent for future developments that don't respect the unique design and character of our community, and most importantly, the safety of its residents. I urge the committee to reject this proposal and preserve the integrity of Blackburn Hamlet, our safe, peaceful, and well-planned community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Well, let's see if any of our panel members have any questions for you, Ms. Sarazay. Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions? Ms. Wright? Ms. McLean? Mr. Bolts?
So I think most of the issues you've raised are related to neighborhood character and design and architecture. I'm wondering, and this is outside our purview completely, but this sounds more like a desire to have a heritage conservation district. And there is one mid-century modern designated district, Briarwood, Briarcliff, whatever it's called, of similarly aged and similar design houses. So that isn't something we can consider, but there are heritage planners at the city, and perhaps the neighborhood ought to look into whether you would be eligible for a study to look at heritage conservation district.
I would appreciate information on that, honestly, because as I mentioned,
That won't come from us, but if you go to the city website, and just look up heritage.
Heritage,
It'll,
okay.
yeah, there's lots of pages there.
Right.
And maybe the planners could direct you to it
Okay.
as well.
So, yeah, I'd be
It's
interested
not
in
going to
knowing
help
like
you
what.
here, of course.
Right.
but-
So how would that impact your decision and how could
Oh,
that?
it doesn't. And it's a thing that takes years, but in the long term, if you're worried about, if you think your neighborhood has an architectural and landscape character that's worthy of preservation, and is, well, you'll see what the criteria are under the Ontario Heritage Act and the city's policy, but there are areas that have been designated heritage conservation districts.
Yeah, I'd
And then
like
it
to
goes
know
to the
if-
Heritage Committee at City Hall, who decides like if things like this would be compatible or not.
Right.
So that might be a longer term solution for the whole area if you're looking at. It's a, you know, there are heritage planners of the city who will tell you whether or not they think off the bat that that's a
Right.
worthy thing to pursue.
I'm surprised it hasn't been designated, honestly, because when my dad built his house there was Innis Road, Bearbrook Road, everything was farmland, and Gravelle was the first side street
Yeah,
in the
so,
town, so.
yeah, you
All
might
right.
want to look into that because we're talking about severing property into two pieces of property, which is a long way away from protecting the character of the area.
I addressed that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sarazan.
Thank you. Is it
Uh,
okay if I sit up here while my dad's speaking?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Next up is Marcel Sarazin, and then last would be Joanne Grise.
Sitting too long. Hey, Julie.
Am I up?
You're up.
All right. I'm not intelligent, like you guys only got read identifications. I don't speak your language. I'm going to speak the way I usually speak. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Marcel Sarazin. I have lived at 2539 Gravelle Crescent for most of my 90 years with my family, my beautiful wife, Beverly. I made the effort to come here today because I'm very disturbed by what is being proposed for my street. I'm just a concerned neighbor, a man that I am who has sounded his heart and soul into this home for 7 years. I've watched this community grow and cherished every moment of peace and security it has given me, my family and my neighbors. And now this is what is at risk. I built my home with my own hands, myself, my two brothers, side by side. We bought these properties and they cost us $600 per lot. I bought 2 lots, $1,200. Across the street, the one that is doing this, they paid $1,000 for that thing. And he's ready to pay, he paid $600,000 for it. One piece of land that was sold for $1,000 60 years ago. He's not ready to quit. He's not ready to quit. He got this involved. Okay. I built my home, yeah. I have sat on my front lawn for years, decades, watching my kids grow. And their bikes, seeing families grow, knowing my neighbors by name, and I've heard, hope to live out there my final days. The quiet comfort, I know you guys don't care about that. I'm just a number. It's all about money. But this proposal threatens to take all of this away. The plan, severe 2544 Gravelle, and cram 12 units into a single lot directly across my house is nothing short of reckless. And it's an excellent example of terrible city planning that does not give a damn about me in consideration of the living of the people on the street. It's ridiculous. This street was never meant to be an urban corridor. If project goes through, it will set a precedent that will destroy what we have worked so hard for our life. All the lots on our side of the street are the same size. They could be offered 700,000 and it'll become the whole thing, it'll be the same thing. The whole street, they're all big lots. So if he starts, the others carry on. Ridiculous. Where will it stop? This imbalance entirely out of face and unfair to those of us who have lived here for decades. And here's the parking situation. Only 4 places for 12 units. All units need 1 car each. That needs 12 cars. Hey, that's ridiculous. Where is the city looking at this? Hey, cars going to price? No, that doesn't make sense. Leave the rest of the cars right in front of my house and up and down the streets. And the sorry part of it is, in front of that place, there's a hydrant. There'll be no parking in front of the building. There's a hydrant. There you go. Turning a quiet street in the parking lot and a danger zone. Without sidewalks, how are we supposed to safely navigate the street and lawn and dodge the parked cars? I walk with my walker and I'm terrified of what this congestion will mean for me and my family. I'm not dead yet. I got many more years to go. Gotta walk in the street. It's easy to say that's trying to make money out of 12 units and not providing parking for more than 4 cars. It's all about money, all about money. He wants to make money, you know? And this is going to be rented place. How long will it take him to get his money back? He's already spent 3/4 of the building before he put a shovel in the ground. Hey, he's going to take, he'll never see the end of it with rental, even if it's $4,000 a month. Let's go. The developer could have proposed few units. 1 unit would be enough.
Please continue.
Yeah, the developer could have proposed few units and then equal number of parking spots. My goodness, where are they going to park? They wanted to squeeze every dollar out of what the lot that they could. I can't believe it. I'm not that old that I don't know what's going on. If the city cares about the people of this street, serves enabling is read it and extend something the city should be doing. Should you think of us to city? The hell with the builder. The builder's already, he can go and build it like in the okay. Why doesn't he build in the design area? There's all kinds of room in Blanchard, there's all kinds of room in Avon. Keep on going. There's room they can buy acres if they want. This will impact everyone. Property values will fall, and this will affect the value of our property. My children, I have put decades in hard work in the investment, and now that's all gone for shit. And for what? For people else's profit, for somebody else's profit. I'm fed up. Bottom line, this is not about providing affordable housing or improving our community. It's about money and the developer and plain and it's simple. Stop the immigrations and we'll have room.
No.
To add insult to the entry, the developer never even consulted us. The city encourages developers to take to the community in case of this, but this developer never tried to contact us in any case. That's unacceptable. Tells me one thing. They don't care about people who live there and the case and for decades and the quality of life and the consequences that the children and the elderly will get. My wife and now city is I went my life and I know the city is growing. We know housing is provided, but Gravelle Crescent is not the place. It's a place, quiet residential street, and I know you don't give a damn about that. You want to get the money for the taxes for this place. You're going to get more taxes out of 12 units than my 1 unit. Money, money, money. Please don't let our beautiful street be developed by approving the severance. I've seen this neighborhood through every changes. and the city needs to act responsibly and in the interest of residents. Please reject this proposal, preserve the integrity of our street, and keep us safe. Thank you very much for considering, and I'm ready to answer anybody's question.
Thank you very much. I'll ask Mr. Barrett if he's got any questions for.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank you for coming in and giving us your comments. And I think that, you know, we have much thought to give to what you've said. So thank you again.
That's right. Ms. McLean, Mr. Baltz.
Yes, so several, including Mr. Sarazan, have raised the issue of parking. And I think rather than, we've heard from you, Mr. Sarazan, but I'm going to direct this to Mr. Hume. So we understand that only 4 parking spaces are required. So, but this is Blackburn Hamlet, and I'm not aware of what the public transportation availability is near this particular street. So has thought been given to who would be in these units and how they could function essentially without a car? Because there is no, as has been pointed out, there is no, as of right, on-street parking. You can be there overnight, but not during the day.
So we do know that there's public transit along Innes Road, and it takes you to the rapid transit station at, I think it's Blair, and the current terminus of the O train. So public transit does exist along Innes Road. The parking that's provided or that's demonstrated to be provided is what is required, is the minimum required under the zoning bylaw. Doesn't mean that there's more that cannot be provided in a zoning compliant fashion. We didn't model that because the direction that we get from the official plan in the city is to provide actually less parking, not more parking. And we did say that to the community on Thursday, that, you know, we could model and we would model more parking, but for the purposes of the application, we have to demonstrate zoning conformity, right? And in the broad zoning conformity, 2 parking spaces are what is required. And so that is what we've demonstrated.
So we are not determining what gets built on these 2 lots.
No,
you know.
you're not. That's
So
correct.
we could sever them and single family homes could show up eventually.
Absolutely.
But it's also possible that zoning compliant developments with more parking provided might be possible.
Yes.
Okay. So that might be something to consider given the street conditions.
What gets me, sir, is right across the street, that's where I live. I have property twice the size of these guys, twice. That means they could put 4 of those units on my property. Later on, they can change the laws. And my side is not that way yet. But all the other sides are going to be that way. They can build this all along the street, and there'd be nobody to say, well, he did it, why can't we do it?
The issues you have are with the underlying zoning in your area now.
Other zoning said that it's integrity. It's why can't he put 1 unit instead?
They
You
can.
gotta make
but
money.
Yes, so we won't
And that's
debate
why
here.
we're arguing against the severance, is so that there's only 1 6-unit dwelling going in there, so that we don't have the parking, we don't have the safety issues. Those are the 2 major issues. And of course, there are other ones, but those are the 2 major issues, is the safety that will result from the parking issue on the street. The other thing that should be mentioned is that they're basically circumventing by having these semi-detached dwellings which is considered 1 principal dwelling, right? So if this was an apartment, which essentially it is, this would require 1 point, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's 1 point something parking spots per unit.
Yes.
So that is a huge consideration that I think that this is something that you should consider in approving this severance, in reviewing this severance, is that they're essentially circumventing by having this as 2 dwellings as considered one principal dwelling.
It's very common though. That's what we see the most these days.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's
But
right.
anyway, we can't
Yeah.
debate here. We will.
The
take it.
purpose of it and why it happened is because of the provincial government bringing in these new intensification requirements. It has nothing to do with the city of Ottawa doing it. We just have to deal with their regulations and try to work within their regulations. That's our job here. Okay?
But it's
These
intensification.
these are really important discussions that you're having here, okay, in front of the applicant, okay? That hopefully he'll take it back to his developer and have a discussion with him, recognizing that all you guys came out to discuss this. Mr. Hume is like a former politician. He knows what's important. He knows that all your voices have been heard. So
But
we've
when
got
we
a very,
spoke with him on Thursday, we asked, would the owner consider putting in only 1 dwelling? And he said no.
probably not, because he's looking at trying to stay within the provincial policy statement that has
Make
been.
money.
Pardon me?
And make
I
money.
think more money, the more the better. It's
So-
all about money.
So anyway,
Money.
the province is the one that brought this in. It's not the city of Ottawa that's dealing with this. The province brought this in, saying you can put this many dwelling units on that lot.
Who are those people?
Doug Ford,
I'd like to meet them.
Doug Ford, the one you just voted in.
I know, I can't believe I voted for him.
Okay, I don't know. So just a,
Remember, this is on YouTube
Yeah.
here, so.
okay, so well, thank you very much for your testimony. It's awesome that you all came out.
But I'd like you guys to ask me questions if you want. I've been there
did.
all
So-
my life. Where's the questions?
We
Where's the
acknowledge a lot of the comments that you made. Thank you very much. It's important in our deliberations, which we're going to have at the end of this meeting
Mhm.
to discuss this severance.
Okay.
So it's been very important that you presented the facts that you presented.
Yeah.
Can I just say one last thing?
Sure.
I hope you will read through and through the submissions, the submissions that were provided, because we did not address everything. There was one particular submission that sort of counters the city planner's report in terms of how we saw that they weren't addressing certain requirements. So if you could please make sure that you read all of the written submissions that were provided before you make your decision. Thank
Okay.
you very much for your time today.
You're welcome. And just for your benefit too, I hope you go back to our website, take a look at what the conditions are that we are trying to determine to approve or refuse this application on the different criteria you have to meet or they have to meet on a severance. It's important.
But that includes 5124, right?
That's right.
Okay.
But from what I can
And-
see, trees are more important than us. You gotta leave the trees, you can't touch the trees. And you know, you should see my lot. I got 8 100-year-old maple. That's when they will be developed. I think on, they won't be like I got those trees. It's all over the place. They won't be able to really room to put any houses. So they can say, okay, we'll replace the piece. They'll put a sapling about 8 feet tall. It'll take 100 years to get the same size as they are now. It doesn't make.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Now, there's one more person that is looking to make a comment. I believe I have Joanne Dries as the next person to speak.
Hi, Mr. Chair, members of the panel. I will make it super brief. I don't really have anything new to bring to the table here. My name is Joanne Grisé. I live at 2521 Gravelle. I just want to say that I'm speaking on behalf of the community and for my husband. He's lived on Gravelle Crescent for his entire life. His parents bought a single-family home on a safe, quiet crescent. We bought that matrimonial home because it's on a safe, quiet crescent. You've heard members of the community. We can totally appreciate that you have a job to do. I will urge you that any discretionary powers and influence that you have today to find a middle ground that is going to make this a profitable business transaction for the owner, because clearly that's the only motivation they have. to uphold the provincial policy statement, to add some additional housing, but to also take into consideration the safety of the community and especially the children of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any, so I'd like to ask the panel if they have any questions for you, Mr. Barrett, Ms. Wright, Ms. McLean, Mr. Maltz.
Is there a community association in Blackburn Hamlet?
Yes.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, I thought so. So, and they should have people they do not. They ought to have people who are involved in the zoning and building. They're probably a member of the Federation of Citizens Associations, which is the big umbrella organization. They certainly have a planning and zoning committee. I know that because I was the founding chair of that. They might be helpful because again, what it sounds like the problem in your community is with the underlying zoning that you now have, which was set by the city at R2N, which envisions semi-detached at most. And as the chair has said, the province then said 1 = 3. And this long semi configuration is also fairly new. And the innovation by developers, and that is now in the zoning bylaw as a thing that can be done. The city's in the process of developing the next zoning bylaw. So with the community association and Councillor Dudas, you might want to be involved in what your zoning is going to look like 2 years out, because the new zoning bylaw will be in force at that point. Because it sounds like it's not what we can do here because we're only looking at severing, but you have a zoning issue, and you might want to enter into discussions about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that concludes our, well, actually, no, Mr. Hume, you have the right to the last word if you like.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lots been said today, and unfortunately, as Dr. Baltz has said, the problem here is the problem that the community has is with the direction that's been given by the provincial government under Bill 23 and the underlying zoning. Not issues unrelated to this consent application, because this consent application does not require any minor variance, whether it's establishing a single family home or along semi. The performance standards are in fact actually the same. But when you look at the requirements of the Planning Act when considering consent applications under Section 51, Part 24, these are macro policy issues that the tests that you apply. And when you look at the provincial interests, it's providing a full range of housing, including affordable housing. It's ensuring that growth happens in appropriate places as defined by this official plan and within settlement areas, for example. And in this case, in the macro policy that are the tests that you must apply, this is in an evolving neighborhood designation, which the official plan indicates is where intensification should occur and is expected to occur. And then when you apply the broader provincial policy statements with state that you're promoting a range of densities to provide new housing which efficiently uses land, resources, and infrastructure. It's exactly what applications like this are supposed to do. So when you apply those tests to these consent, to this application, my submission to you would be that it should be approved because it meets the tests in the Planning Act. It meets the intent of the provincial policy statement. It meets the intent of the city's official plan, and it exceeds the requirements of the zoning bylaw as it exists today. And I will tell you, when you look at the new zoning bylaw, which will be released, which version 2 releases tomorrow, the permissions are actually much more relaxed than the provisions that you see here. They don't get more restrictive. They get much more permissive. So what you see here is a zoning compliant application that exceeds most, if not, well, I'm going to tell you, it exceeds almost all of the required provisions of the zoning bylaw. And the last thing I'll say is that the lot fabric that would establish this is not inconsistent with what you would see on the street. I wonder if you can put up the last slide in my presentation. So we went out and we looked at Gravelle Crescent because we wanted to be able to demonstrate to you that you have, that when you look at lot area from a lot fabric perspective, that there are existing dwellings on Gravelle that can now, as of right, accommodate the additional dwelling units that are of a similar proposal. Oh, no, not that one. If you can go to the keep going. No, just, this is my time.
He has the
Patient
opportunity
with
to say
yours.
what he has to say.
So if you could go to the last page. Keep going, one more. I think it's after that. And I'll conclude with this, Mr. Chairman. One more after, there we go. So these are two sets of semi-detached. Each dwelling it's just down from the existing dwelling. I have item, and you can see the pink X. You move down. Each of these addresses by right can have 2 additional dwelling units for the 12 units that are being proposed. The lot area is 1,365 square meters for all of the lots. The lot area that we're proposing, similar, 1,379 square meters. So in fact, our lot, to accommodate a similar type of density, very similar from a lot area perspective. And again, the ability to convert those to 12 units is as of right. So no variances. We don't believe no variances. And additional, the parking spaces are in the garage, 4 parking spaces. So, Mr. Chairman, what that demonstrates is that you have areas on the street that are similar in lot size that, as of right, could accommodate the development that we're proposing. So I will conclude with that and encourage you. I'll look forward to your decision next week, and I appreciate your patience in this matter.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the panel if they'd like to reserve this application. All those in favor, please raise your hand. We're going to be reserving, and as you pointed out, about 10 days, you're going to get a written response. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for your